This 30-year-old German Supercross star just got the red plate on a 7-year-old 450. Are you surprised though? Ken Roczen is the same child prodigy who first raced his RMZ 450 at just 13 years old and has gone on to become one of the most loved racers in the history of the sport. By the time he was a teenager, Ken had already captured the attention of the motocross world, winning the MX2 World Championship at just 17 years old. Roczen's decision to move to the US and leave everything behind wasn't just bold, it was groundbreaking. He embraced the challenge of competing against the world's best in AMA, Supercross, and Motocross.
Crazy how different it is. The smell is different, the bikes sound different, like it's a different animal.
In 2014, he made an immediate impact, winning the AMA 450 Motocross Championship in his rookie season, and in 2016, he won again in dominating fashion.
Probably one of my favorite years, and it was, I don't know, my age, like I was just at the right time, I was strong as an ox.
In 2017, while at the top of his game, Ken suffered one of the most horrific crashes in Supercross history, but Roczen refused to let adversity define his career. In 2022, Ken shocked the industry by leaving HRC Honda and signing with Suzuki, and the legend of Kickstart Kenny was born. Throughout his journey, Ken has proven that greatness isn't just about wins and championships, it's about resilience, reinvention, and believing that it's darkest right before the dawn. Today, Ken Roczen is a symbol of determination and artistry on the bike, captivating fans around the globe with his raw talent and fearless approach to racing. Ken Roczen, welcome to Gypsy Tales. Ken Roczen, welcome to Gypsy Tales.
Thank you. It's been
Finally.
long in the making.
I know, you're one of the most requested guests. And then you do one, you do the Eli Tomac pod, and then everyone's like, no, get Ken Roczen. I'm like, guys.
No, yeah, I'm excited. It's nice to be won it as well, you know? Make him
yeah.
wait, though, a little bit, but we can finally make it happen.
It's, I feel like these things always happen in the perfect time too. And like, you've just had, we were talking about today, you just have had the gnarliest life. Dude, we met in 2010.
I know. I talk about that with Court, like, and then there was a time where we were on such different schedules, right? Like we take our own ways for forever, and then started getting involved again with all of this, you know, and it's just why you have that gap in between, and now we think back, like how long it's actually really been is.
Dude, even I go back that far with Courtney.
I
in
know.
like a completely different way.
It doesn't feel like we were different people back then, no?
Oh, bro, I was writing in my journal this morning because I'm like, I wrote that you're coming on, and but I was like, man, I'm almost borderline embarrassed to think about what I was like back then. You know, like you'd grow and change so much in that period of time.
And it goes from, you know, listening, like whatever music, and it's the generation that you're around with, the music that you listen to, the way you dress, like it's just everything's different. Like I've obviously, you know, you've talked about it. Like I was a wild German back then, doing whatever I wanted, and just I was always hanging around with older people or like, you know, friends that are way older than me. So I kind of, even though I'm born 94, like I should have probably been in the lower like 90s or late 80s.
Yeah, you're like late
just
80s, dude. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. You just change so much. Like I watched a clip the other day from, and it was Lirop, the Belgium Dutch GP, right? And it feels like you're just a completely different human, right? Like at this point, this far into the career, like back then you didn't think that far ahead, but now you look back and it's like, it's wild just how different, you know?
I remember Motocross Nations 2010. We were just running around like wild children. And like even your dad was just walking out of hot tubs in like little tiny Speedos and just like jacked as shit.
Yeah.
Like just full, you were shredding that whole weekend, partying after. But you're right. You always were, because I would have been, you're 94, I'm 88. So yeah, I'm like 6 years older.
Yeah,
than you.
exactly. So
but I always felt like we were very
Yeah.
similar in age. And I think just because you got here, we moved here at the same time to basically the same street, two foreigners.
Yeah, and you know, being in Germany, like I feel like everybody there kind of grew up quicker anyways, right? Like then I'm in my mid-teens, and I'm starting to go out, but I have like just having fun, but not, not doing anything stupid. But like I was on my own, or basically living in my own house at the age of 14. It was on the same property as my parents, but I still had my own house. So I kind of like, I had a lot of freedom at a really young age. And I think, I just gravitated towards the older guys. And, I grew up fairly early too.
Yeah.
And then now, man, I've become quite a homebody. Like I like being at home, like it's not about going out anymore or doing a big fuss. So I really like being at home. I mean, it's nice to travel and stuff too, but I've become more of a homebody than like how it was back in the day. I think it happens to everybody. But
it does.
Yeah.
Just age. I remember we were at Alden's, and it was when you and Courtney first got together.
Yeah,
and she come up to me, she's like, "I'm with Ken," and I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing with Ken?" And she's like, "No, I'm like with Ken." Yeah. And then we spoke after it, and you were just like, "Dude, I'm just ready to change. Like I feel like I've changed. I just want like." Kind of was like you knew what you wanted in life, and it was just like way more settled. You just had like way more of a focus.
Yeah, I think that was the next stage, right? And then at that point, and you think at that point your life is hard sometimes and it's stressful or whatever, but you don't know until you have kids and you get older and you have a lot more stuff to deal with than just doing your job. And it's just funny how that works. And then of course it was just me and Court. We still had that was a really cool time because we were racing in New York and we're kind of like or for me personally, I was kind of starting to be at the top of the level, you know what I mean? We get to race at all these cool places and had a good time just being two young people and hanging out with good friends, and we had a good core group of people that we went and did stuff with, and it's it's an awesome time.
Yeah, that would have been
end of 14 is when me and Court started dating. We kept it under wraps for a while, and it was super low-key, like no pressure type thing, and it wasn't really planned by any means. So it kind of just happened like that, and I think that's why it ended up being a really good fit.
Being so good. But you get those early years where it's like you're having success, you're making money, results are like you're getting results, you're with a good person, like you've been with Steve forever, you're super close with the Fox guys and Mikey, and like that is a cool period of life when you kind of sort of start to figure it out.
100%. That was before we all had kids, and at that point, we, you don't realize it then, but you had a lot more time on your hands, and we were just constantly doing stuff. And then, of course, living here in San Clemente and Dana Point as well, we have, most of my really close friends are from here, and that's why I always had a place here, and we were splitting our time between, Florida and California, and just spending a lot more time here. But we were constantly doing stuff, whether it's grilling on the beach or, going surfing and going to music shows. And I don't know, it was a really, really cool time. And I'm looking forward to do the same thing now. I mean, yes, I'm not here as much anymore as I was back then, and we all have kids now. But I think the focus will kind of switch. Like everywhere we go to now will be about the kids, and we'll teach them how to surf and stuff. So it'll be a different type of fun. But yeah.
Dude, Mikey's in deep now too.
Yeah, with not triplets,
with
but
twins.
Twins and three now. That was unexpected. But.
Yeah, he's just deep in it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sleepless nights. It's a gnarly task, even with just two, right? And then they say you got the third one, you may as well have six. Like it almost doesn't matter anymore. Right now, both parents they can kind of split the time a little bit. So,
that's cool. So, I mean, you started your career so young. It's wild, like you are still young, but man, just think about how many years you've been racing now. From when were you, 15 in the GPs?
15. So I remember I had to skip the first 4 or 5 races, I believe, because I was still 14 and I was starting to race for pretty much a factory team, right? And I had to skip the first 4 or 5 races because I was still under 15, and then once I turned 15, it was game on. And then my first race was Portugal, actually, then. And you know what was crazy about that? So you're fully in the dark. I mean, back then, I went to Lommel to practice, right? I had to get good at sand. And I've always liked sand, but like where I'm from, it's rock hard, right? And so I knew that was a big hub to be at. And just grinding motos out there, trying to find your feet a little bit. And I remember showing up like the first few times, and Sean Simpson, 17 seconds a lap faster than me. Like, there's so much time in between. It's almost like you don't, fathom like how much that really is, right? But it was such a unique style of track and sand, and it just was brutal.
And you were tiny.
And I was tiny. Yeah, obviously I was super young, being on 250s, and I grew, like, I don't feel like I'm tiny anymore, you know, like
No,
I'm probably just the right size for it. But, and I started growing a little bit later for sure. And I was just so young. I was a kid.
Literally.
Literally. Yeah. And with a bike, that's probably way too big and heavy and too fast for me. But, yeah, you go there, you get 15 to 17 seconds a lap, and man, and then from then on, the grind started. So it was some brutal and such fun and valuable time when it comes to shaping your mind and your character, right? Like having my dad by my side, my mom, of course, but you know, my dad was a pretty intense guy, and
Dude, for real.
so he
I was scared of him for so long.
I know, I think everybody
I always
is.
thought you two were fighting.
I know,
I've just
everybody
never
says
been
that.
around German
Yeah,
people.
I mean, you know, I speak farmer German. Like I got a heavy slang when it comes to speaking German. So our, yeah, it can definitely sound intense. And most of the time when people say that, I'd be like, were you guys fighting? Like that sounded really aggressive. I'm like, no, we actually had a really good conversation. You know, and it was mellow.
Yeah.
But we're yelling and screaming at each other. It's, yeah, funny to think about. But anyway.
He's still a beast, dude.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's 62, I believe. You would never know. Like, I feel like he looks just like how he did 15, 20 years ago, you know, maybe even longer. And
What's his secret?
dude, he lives a pretty pure lifestyle. Like, he doesn't drink. He hasn't drank since he was 18 or something like that. And he lives off of he has his half a gallon of chocolate milk in the morning. Like, that's what us kids grew up with back in the day, right? Like hot chocolate in the mornings and hot cocos. Yeah, so he drinks a half a gallon of hot chocolate in the morning, and he doesn't drink. He eats like a bird. I think he doesn't eat enough. Probably doesn't eat much anymore. But yeah, I don't know, man. He's just he's a very unique specimen, like in a good way. I mean, but he was very hard, you know, and he shaped me well. Like, you think when I was 14 years old, barely, like I couldn't really reach the ground. Even 13, actually, that's when I started riding 250s. If I were to tip over in the mud or something in the turn, like, you think he would come over and help me to pick the bike up. And I'm glad he didn't, because, you know, right now somebody tips over and the first thing parents do is run over there and pick their bike up. But it's little moments like that shape you down the road. So you have to figure it out on your own, you know, and those are little bits and pieces early on that you take with you for the rest of your life.
Can you relate to your dad now in a different way now you have kids?
I think so, for sure. I never believed that I would say that, but you have a special relationship with your kids. That's a fact. And, you know, my oldest is 4 years old, so we still have a ways to go of learning each other and going through all these cool moments and whatnot. But, yeah, you just, you know, back then your parents are just your parents. Like, you want to hang out with friends and do the fun things. You don't think about it much, right? You're young-minded. And now having kids, like, I can see how, first off, the anxiety when they, you know, when we do something gnarly like racing, like there's always this conversation about, are you gonna let him race and whatnot? And I'm like, it's not, you know, he gets it so much that it'd almost be silly not to, just because I feel like he's really good at it, and he picks on, he figures stuff out pretty quick. And but yeah, back then, you know, we went through our hard patches of, you know, fighting, not talking for a few months. And, you know, I still think I made all the right decision and everything went well, but definitely, like, I can see, you know, you mature, you have a different mindset. And then, of course, having kids now too, I'm like, man, like, you know, you shape this little dude your entire life, you know what I mean? And then that starts fizzling out. And then you got to also deal with puberty and, you know, you change. I guess just it's
yeah.
You know,
you turn into like your own man.
Yeah,
and you don't want to be a son in the same
Yes.
way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we're both pretty stubborn, so you know sometimes that's a recipe for, you know, a grenade.
Bit of tension.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
It's hard too, right? Because I mean, we were just talking about this before. Like, there's some parents in Moto, like even now, their kids are like at the top of the sport and they're like crazy involved. Like every decision that gets made, every single thing that is touched on the bike, like, and some for good and some for bad. Like, it's such a hard balance. And, you know, like even now I think about all the stuff that I just like hated my dad for as a kid, and like not literally hated.
Yeah, but
you know
like,
what
you know,
I mean?
you go
I'm
through
like,
your spurs of like not being happy with them.
Yeah, and you're just like, all those things now, I look at my life and I go, I'm so glad that you taught me those things.
For sure.
And because it would have been hard to be hard on your son or someone that you love.
Totally.
Like those moments that you're talking about.
Yeah, you
now
want to
where it's
spoil
like,
your kid and you want to make them, you know what I mean?
you want to make their life easy.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's those hard moments down the road that end up being the things that you kind of like dig into to
100%.
make you the man that you are in a way.
100%. And then also in the sport, you got to think, you know, so I started when I was 2.5 or 3, like 3 was my first race. It was actually a little Supercross race, indoor track. And man, you do that your whole life. So at a very, very, very young age, I was racing, European Championship and races that are outside of Germany. So traveling to, like, you have a very adult lifestyle at a very early age, but like in a good way. Because those times when you're out at the track and you build bicycle jumps, like racing was almost just the thing we went to do, but like it was about making friendships, like we're riding our bikes and playing soccer, and that was, I don't even know where the energy came from to do all of that and then go race, right? But when you're a kid, it doesn't really matter. So
and then the energy of your parents,
yeah,
to support that shit,
dude, it's so gnarly. I mean, holy shit, you can tell even right now once you start having kids. I mean, but having said, it's probably hard for us racers because Cord understands that we can't be 50-50 parents. Like, it's just impossible, and we have to focus on, doing, like, I'm still in the middle of my career, right? But as long as you appreciate it, that those kind of things come, like difficult times or whatever, you being annoyed with your kids or whatever, like, it kind of comes with it. So you got to enjoy that time too. And it's hard at times, right? Like, we all get annoyed and pissed off, and you have your moments and whatnot. But yeah, it is an insane amount of work, and then obviously the parents have to be all in, juggling work and stuff like that. Like, I was very fortunate that I had the upbringing that I had, but yeah, I couldn't even imagine, driving throughout the night and making sure the bikes are good, take care of your family, this and that. Like, it's just an insane amount of work, sleepless nights.
Well, and then to think that then your kid gets successful, they start making money, and then they don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, sorry, we're done here. Like, I can definitely see why there are
100%.
parents that are still super involved in their kids, because it's like, it's your life and it's your lifestyle. It's just, and it's so not, it's not football. It's like an individual sport, right? So like, your team is your family. It's not like you go and you play college football or you play soccer at Manchester United and there's like a staff. It's like a job. Whereas this sport is like so individual,
Yeah, and think about, like going back to you raising this little dude for so long, and then there will be a time where he's starting to want to make his own decisions. And that's what I mean by I'm stubborn, he's stubborn. Like, I think I grew up so early, and then, parting ways, I guess, at that point with him and going with Eldon, like, those are big decisions. And honestly, what was really hard is that I don't think anybody really does, but I really hate confrontation like that. Like, I don't want the stress of discomfort at home and whatnot. So it's such a unique time. But as a kid back then, you're not really thinking about all of like what your dad did. And, I'm just like trying to look for the next best thing. You know what I mean? And I can just, it's got to hurt a dad for sure. Yeah, that's the tough time. But, you move past it. And
yeah, I was going to say, life's so long,
yes.
and you're in this career for such a short period of time. And it's like, all that stuff goes by pretty quick.
For the most part now, lately, so when did I start having Griff? So that was 2020. Once I started having Griff, and probably he was, starting to become into his older age too, he's definitely mellowed out more. And we've had, since then, probably the best relationship that we've had, like, maybe ever in our life. I still, I talk to him after every race, or if I have a good day or whatever it is, I text him or call him, and we chew through everything, we look at everything, and he listens to me, and we have just a lot more mellow, respected relationship. And this is kind of like all I wanted back in the day. But then I was probably different too, you know what I mean? It's just like there's a time and place for everything, and now I think we've both gotten older, and we have just a much more relaxed relationship, but it's still fun to talk about the sport that we love. He can't sleep. Like, when I race or whatever, he's up all night or whatever. He's such a gnarly human being. And I think every dad would be the same with their son, right? Or their daughter. And yeah, we just have a great, I sometimes have to reel him in a little bit, he's like, we had a little falling out at Motocross of Nations. Like, obviously it wasn't a good weekend for me, but I wasn't as prepared, and with the knee, like, it just wasn't, and sometimes, I have to reel him in a little bit, we kind of
He's just a competitor, dude.
Dude, he is. And then the funny part is, and then World Supercross started, and I'm going, and we've talked since then, but like, it was about watching it or whatever, and he's like, oh, I don't know, like, I may watch it, but I've still had enough from Motocross of Nations. And I'm like, dude, it's been 2 months, or I don't know how many months, like, get over it, you know what I mean? Like, settle down. So that's what I mean by sometimes I have to be like, like, whatever. move on. You know,
just
what
passionate. He's a
Oh, he
passionate.
is.
He's a passionate dude.
100%.
Man, I just remember being so intimidated by him back in the day.
And I think a lot of people are, but the crazy part, because he's always been around my friends as well, right? Like even in Germany, like he would go out to parties, he would never drink. He was either the designated driver or he would just always be around. So my friends were friends with him. Like even in the later stages, once I was 20, 21, 25, whatever, we always had a group of people up at the house because it's a very public place, public track and everything. And we would have parties up in the clubhouse and everything. So my friends were friends with him.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes like me and my friends started not fighting, but like, you know, we bitch at each other because they would always take my dad's side. And I'm like, dude, he's your friend. Stop it. You know, like think about it from my side of things, you know? So they were always siding with him and it made me so mad.
Oh, that's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But it's cool. It's cool to have parents that are like that cool with the people that you hang out with and stuff. So what I'm saying is once you actually start knowing my dad, he's an easy guy to be around. It's always funny and joking, even though he looks very intimidating and stuff. Like the KTM guys, you know, Frankie and Carlos, they always had a lot of fun with him. You know, called him Papa, and he was a big part of like obviously when we first came over. So, it's funny to think about it.
Those first years over here must have been so cool.
It was a crazy time because I remember talking to Roger, and I think I went to my first Supercross in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And then Roger was always asking. We always had some kind of contact with him through my agent because he was Suzuki Europe boss, and he was my manager back then. And through the Gabors brothers and Roger, like there was always like this triangle like relationship, like we knew of each other, you know. And Roger would always ask me, when are you finally coming over? And, you know, I was a little kid. Like, I don't remember what I said, but it always sounded really far away. Well, then I turned 15, still a kid, started racing GPs, right? And I guess at that point, you don't think that far ahead. Like, you're in the moment in that age, you know what I mean? You don't know what's happening tomorrow. I still don't know what's happening tomorrow at noon, you know what I mean? But before I knew it, I was over in the U.S. and racing West Coast. It all happened so quick. It just sounded so far away. Like in 2008, that was my first Supercross race, and I was a big Jason Lawrence fan back in the day, and Ryan Dungey, like in different ways. It's funny because they were like completely against each other, right? And then not that long after, all of a sudden I'm on those tracks, and it just, being from Germany, it just wasn't as accessible for us to just go to a Supercross race. You know, we would go to Dortmund and whatnot, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So, and then before I knew it, I was down in the stadium and just wild emotions when you think about it. You know what I mean? It's just crazy how different it is. The smell is different. The bikes sound different. Like it's a different animal to learn, you know? And I think nowadays a lot of people have a lot more experience. A lot of riders have shared more what they do and what works and whatnot. But back then we came over here and it was like, yeah, let's ride Supercross. We go here, there, and public tracks. And it just was.
It was before like there was one KTM test track.
Yep.
And then there was like, dude, we'd be going out to
Palm Springs in the early stages.
Yeah, Palm Springs was one. And then what was the other one? It was not Kahia
Milestone.
Creek.
Milestone always had it. But yeah, no, the ranch.
The ranch. Yeah. And it was like every day, because that was the JDR sort of days too. And it was just like, it was so raw and it was way less polished than what it was now. Yeah. And like, dude, just number 70. Driving around, getting Fox gear and doing this and doing that.
Well, dude, at first I was 194, actually. Remember in 2011?
Right.
That was
Yeah,
194. And then because of the point system, right, I skipped a race as well. Seattle, I believe, that year because I was starting to race GPs and then I came back over after Anaheim 3, that was actually back then. So, I didn't have a permanent number yet, right? So I was number 70 and tough year because you had a little bit of success, 2011, right? You come back and still just no experience because honestly, when I came over in 2011, I raced GPs in 2010, and then like there was not much time because it ended up being like mid-November and we were starting to race West Coast and I had zero Supercross experience, right? So it all happened so freaking quick, you know? And even 2012, then I went back to GPs. You haven't really settled. Like if I would have been there for a full year, you settle into the rhythm different. And the country, like it was all still so new to me, you know? You didn't know where to go grocery shopping. There was just zero help, you know, on the track stuff, you know, with Carlos and Stay Calm. But like now I feel like people can take you on the hand a little bit and be like, hey, this is what we do.
Be so different now.
And it's very, very different. And it's kind of like back in the day being thrown in the deep end a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And just young. Just super young.
16, 17.
Just keen as
yeah.
like it was,
It was a good time, man, because especially at that age, like I said, hanging out with some older dudes and you're trying to figure out who you are. And just having a good time and not a worry in the world. Isn't that crazy? Like it's just day-to-day living, and you go ride dirt bikes and you hang out with friends and then you party a little bit, and it's just like, I don't know. It's just different.
Haven't changed though, bro.
Really?
Like you've grown up.
Yeah.
And you've like turned into like you were a kid into a man, but your personality, your vibe, everything about you as a person, you have not changed one bit.
Yeah,
it's actually crazy.
I've definitely mellowed out a lot, but yes, I think your core character will always stay the same, and
some people don't, bro.
Really?
I don't think so. I've seen people change.
You definitely go through stages throughout your life, like, and especially 15 to 30, you know what I mean? I hear a lot of people said that, not that they didn't like their life before 30, but before 30 was like really hard to figure out like what you're doing, and then they had their best time after 30, right? Yeah. So there's just this growth spur, I guess, 15 to 30, right? Like that's when you turn into a man, and just a lot of different times and generations, like and in a little ways, certain times feel like they happened not that long ago, but they are quite far away. It's just like this mixture thing, and I think everybody feels the same way. Like I used to never be old enough to say, hey, 10 years ago we did this and this and that. Well, now you can. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I just think it's cool that you're just your actual personality. Like, I just feel like you've always stayed the same person. And you've always kept very similar crew around you as well. And I think that says a lot about someone too. If you can keep the same crew and the same friends, like that says you're doing something
For the most part, even dating back to how old was it? Like 13, 14, 15, like some of my best friends that I had back then in Germany, we still are. We don't talk as often now, but every time we do or we see each other, it's like nothing ever changed. And the same with the US, like our core group has always been the same. Literally almost all of them have been in my wedding. And, again, we all get busy with different stuff. We may not talk, every 2 days or whatever, but it's still once a week, once every 2 weeks, twice a week, whatever. It's sometimes more and sometimes not, but they're all the same. And, it's freaking cool. Like it's awesome that we have long-term friends. And I think the best part about life is still coming when you go on trips. The kids get a little bit older and go on trips with them, surfing, going to Mexico. Like, I don't know. It's just like there's so much fun time still ahead, I believe.
Yeah, and I think it's
really
also,
just starting, well, in a sense, right?
Not even for you, really. Like because you're still balls deep in your career, which is another crazy thing. Mm-hmm. Just how good you are at the age that, well, not that you're old, but you've just had such a massive career. Yeah. Like in terms of how long it is from start to finish. And it's like, yeah, you're going to be super young when you do retire with a ton of cash in the bank. And like,
scary thought.
To retire?
I think so. It just, I have, as much as taking time off and chilling for a bit sounds good, dude, I feel like I function the best under stress. And it may not always be the most comfortable, but I do believe under this, what would you call it? Like a stress that is calculated, I guess, in a sense, you know what I mean?
Well, I think you're accountable to something that's like outside of yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you have this thing that's hanging over your head. I've got to be on the gate. I've got to perform. You have to hold yourself to be accountable to something. As soon as you retire and you don't have that, that's what you're just chilling. There's nothing holding you accountable, and it's like purely internal. And I think that's when you don't get the outside stress that's like forcing you to perform.
Yeah, and again, even throughout the last years, like there's just times where you're really into this or into that, and even with dirt bikes, like it's not always fun. It's hard sometimes, and for certain, every person is different. Like not even problem, but everything people go through, you are uniquely yourself. You know what I mean? So everybody has different emotions, different feelings, and whatnot. And you could have, somebody that has a career and that has no downsides, was always happy, and it was easy for him. And then there's others that have a little bit more of a roller coaster ride, And so the last few years, it has been tough at times, 100%.
Because you've had to take time off.
Yeah, just. Like I said, it just wasn't fun for me at one point, and you're just not enjoying. You feel a little bit lost and, with your emotions. And I don't know. It's just you struggle at times and sometimes you don't. And like I said, everybody's different. And I have a pretty short attention span. Like I think part of it. Like, it's just kind of, I'm very explosive in the beginning stages. Like, you can see almost like a personality character thing, right? Like, I've always been very explosive in the beginning, and that's kind of like a little bit similar with not with your moods, but like I could be into surf every single day for 3 days, for 3 times a day for a couple of months, and then, be away from it. And you just, like I said, I'm balls to the wall for a bit, and then sometimes not. So you're just going through different stages in your life. But I think the ultimate thing is that at one point I really started asking myself, like, what do I need? What am I lacking right now to be good? It could be strength, it could be endurance, it could be high intensity stuff. Like, that's when I really started listening to myself, and I was experimenting with my own way of training. And then you start catching on to something, and I started getting a little bit obsessed with keeping my body balance and stuff. Like, every time I had a trainer in the past, it was almost like I wanted to get out of the gym and do other things, where at some point I ended up going in the gym like very frequently and just working on whether that's like spreading my feet. I have a really narrow foot. There's just some things that, we wear too narrow shoes. So like, you find little things, you're like, you know what, I want to work on that. I want to get my arch stronger and just stay balanced. And so then you started getting super obsessive with it, and it becomes fun. So then, like, in the last few years, I think that's why I've enjoyed it so much, because I really started listening to myself and experimenting with my own style of training or what I need. And I don't know, you get the ball rolling sometimes. And yeah, I feel like sometimes right now is probably some of the strongest. In the past couple of years, there were definitely times where I feel like that's the strongest I've been in a long time, and the fittest. My results may not show on a dirt bike.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of variables there, though, right? Like, just because you're the fittest and strongest you've
doesn't
ever
mean
been,
you win
doesn't
races.
mean, just there's guys coming in, there's guys coming out. It's like, there's a lot going on.
100%, yeah. So
that's sick, though. So you stopped getting like a proper trainer.
Yeah, and it was a little bit. It started once I was starting to race World Supercross, right? And I've always had a trainer, and I don't know. There was just something inside of me. I said, I'm going to all these places, all these different countries. I'm in the plane for hours and hours and hours on end. Like, the person that knows how I feel is myself, right? So then, I don't know. I wanted to experiment for a little bit with just doing stuff on my own and really listening to what I personally feel. And honestly, I've been under such good. I've been taken care of on the training side of things for so long from so many good people, starting with Eldon back in the day. There was things to take away from that. Then Peter, my dad to begin with, and then to Eldon, to Peter, and then Blake, my brother-in-law. And I still always talk to Blake and Peter, really, but I always ask, or write me a workout when I'm in St. George, like how it was last year, and we go to the gym together. So that relationship never changed, but I really wanted to...
It's a little bit more on your own terms.
Exactly.
Yeah. I could see how that would be a good way to go about it. Like, how to train, and you're in the zone of where you need to be.
I try to sleep in when I can, or how can I put this? I try to allow myself to sleep in and schedule my training a little bit on different time zones and just a little bit later in the day or whatever, because based on, like, if I feel like, hey man, I've been a bit sleepy, maybe not gotten enough sleep, because sometimes, I feel a massive difference whether I go to sleep at like 11:15 or an hour earlier at 10.
Oh,
like, that's way more important, going to sleep earlier rather than adding on an hour later on.
Yeah.
But sometimes, certain days you feel like you just can't fall asleep or whatever it is, you go to bed later. So then there's other days where I'm like, man, I really need to sleep in a little bit. And so I just started kind of structuring things around a little bit as needed for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense. Like, dude, you're at a point in your career where, like, surely you can do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a kid, and you've always been very disciplined, and I think you've always liked training in terms of, like, doing those exercises, but it's probably just the regime and being, like, super locked in on other people's time, on other people's deal, that's probably the thing that's harder.
And it's two-sided a little bit, in a sense, like, because some people, you can do a day of training, but, like, I think some people just get lost and they want somebody to tell them what to do. It saves them mentally. And honestly, a lot of them probably wouldn't know what to do, really, if they wouldn't have anybody to, talk to, or trying to do everything on their own. There's always questioning. But honestly, like I said, I've been under such good coaching when it comes to those side of things for so many years that, like, I still know the exercises. I know the weight that I did back in the day, but that always changes, right? But I don't know. Like I said, once you start, and in the first couple of weeks, you're trying to find your feet. But in general, like now after a few years of doing it on my own, you start becoming super comfortable and it's your normal, right? And I don't know, I just kind of started obsessing over it a little bit and really almost made it a hobby in a sense.
Yeah.
And then if you can get into it like that, then there hasn't really been any questioning on my side, you know? Like I'm never questioning this day if I did enough or not enough, what exercises I did. Like I try to think as it's not rocket science, you know what I mean? If you just sit down and like think about what you really need for every push you do a pull, like, and you want to cover your bases between long-term, long duration fitness, short duration fitness, and your strength and some explosive stuff. Like if you lay it out a little bit, like it all makes sense. You cover your bases, you know what I mean?
What's the stuff you like doing the most? Like right now for you, what's the stuff you're into fitness wise?
Well, I grew up running. Like I always loved running. I haven't done much running lately because of my knee. Not that I can't run right now, but there were
From the Nashville
the
crash?
Nashville crash. Yeah, that just took like it was good for a while, and then it really started giving me problems. And so I really had to focus on strengthening that quad and get it more stable. You know, get everything firing, which I did for a while too. But then there was just time where it was bugging me, and it was starting to get worse and worse and worse. So. I'm not running much lately. You know, obviously I road bike a lot. I have a great relationship, and one of my long-term sponsors with Canyon, they're a German brand. Like they're supplying me with all kinds of bikes. I have a trials bike at home too that I mess around on. But in general, I go through stages again, you know, because I like to do different stuff all the time, and it not very like every day the same thing. And you need a little bit of that just because I feel like when you get into it, and let's say you're doing the ski erg for a while, you want to kind of like get better at that one thing. You have to put in some time, like isolated to the skier, right? To be able to kind of know and push it and get some better numbers and things like that. But in general, when it's not about the building side of things, like during the week, during the season, I do different stuff all the time. Mainly cycling. It's easy on the joints, and like it's definitely good to have a little bit of a go-to cardio session that you just know your body really well, right?
And it's like probably easy to hit numbers too. Like
yes,
when you
on
know
the road bike,
numbers that you've got to hit.
One of my favorite machines lately is the assault bike, or I should say for the last couple of years.
Yep.
For the people that don't know, it's where you use your hands,
pull one up,
your arms and your legs, and you have a big fan in the front. They're in general, like people hate them because they're miserable.
Sick that way.
I love them. Like,
really?
They're hard.
Yes, dude.
But I have been in the pain cave. Like,
what's the workout you're doing on them?
Oh, I can't give away all my my secrets.
But is it like interval type stuff?
Yeah, intervals, and when it rains or whatever, and we do training indoors, like, you know, I go from assault bike to skier to my Stairmaster. Like I bounce around with stuff.
Yeah.
But this is usually always in my warm up. Like I love getting on the assault bike. It is a full body thing, and it's just overall a miserable workout. Like there's nothing really you do on there that's easy. You know what I mean? But so I don't know. I started loving it, and that's definitely in my pretty much almost everyday routine.
What about for strength wise?
Strength wise, so I go through stages again where I'm like really into the gym and I love it, and then there's other times where I'm just like I have to kind of drag myself in there a little bit.
Yeah.
In general, I definitely love lifting heavy.
Yeah.
Like for actual strength, not muscle endurance or whatever, but actual strength. That's the most fun to me.
Do you like the way it feels? Do you like the way it feels mentally?
Yeah, I think mentally.
Yeah.
The workouts where you maintenance workouts are usually not the funnest because they're kind of like, you're not going really heavy, you're not going light, you know what I mean? It's a lot of times it's really just to keep your muscles firing, right? Like I feel like if I cut out the gym completely, I don't feel like I have the explosive.
Not as hard and
I don't know what it is. Like your legs feel more dead, you know what I mean? It's good to get them fired up a little bit. So that's what I mean. Like if I have my heavy lifting sessions, they're just more fun to me. Like it's harder.
Put on some metal music and
shorter reps, and it's just I don't know. That's what I truly enjoy, and especially once you start getting to the nitty gritty, like trying to add some weight and whatnot. Like I don't know, it's just the most fun to me. It's like it's not even the hardest when it comes. You know, you're not doing that many reps, but when it's purely about lifting heavy weights and squatting, and you know, it's really endless because when you squat, like you want to have good range of like active range of motion and stuff. You know, you want to get into a deep squat without rounding your pelvis or getting hyperextended. So like there's so many ways you can work your body to become better and stronger, and you can squat deeper, and I don't know, it's endless.
It's sick. We've been going to the gym a bunch we had like, you know, like the Dubai, and then last 2 years we just haven't been able to do anything properly. I got into running a bit, and I started to like.
You love it or hate it?
I'm not that good at it, but I definitely started to like it. I honestly like it more for my mentality, like just mentally, than anything. But now, once we moved here and we like got actually settled, just joined the gym straight away. My wife loves lifting as well. But man, just now, I'm just love going to the fucking gym.
You like actually driving? Like, would you prefer driving somewhere to go to the gym and get your work done, or would you love to have a home gym?
I'd love to have a home gym. We have a jiu-jitsu set up at home. So I had to choose between weights or having jiu-jitsu at home. But yeah, so we got all the mats at home. But I would love to have a home gym, because then I would fucking blast music.
Yeah, it's
like,
sick. So I have a pretty sick gym. It's a
home?
second story gym, and I have a balcony, and you can see the lake. Like, the environment of the gym makes a massive difference. Because, like, you know, back in the day in Germany, we would do so much indoor cardio because the weather was just shit. But you're in like, and most of the time it was dark. Like,
you're just looking at a wall.
Dude, you're in a dungeon in a basement somewhere with like some wacky machines, you know what I mean? But dude, we went to town. It didn't matter. It was really a mental grind. And again, it shapes you in certain ways. But I definitely nowadays enjoy a gym that's light, and, you know, you have a good view if you are able to do that. You know, it just makes things easier. And for us, it's a job, and whatever I can do to make that a little bit more pleasant, I'm going for it. So I have a second story gym, and I couldn't imagine going to a public gym.
It does. I mean, it does suck. Like, we're lucky that we don't have to go at like the peak times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've been taking Griff. He's been lifting weights for the first time in his life. But I just love the mental feeling.
Yeah.
And especially having 2 years of just not really being able to train much, and like now to just be consistent and just to actually be able to get into that routine. I just think mentally, what it does for you mentally is almost more than what it does for you physically.
Yeah, no, I love it. There's something to be said that, I guess, getting miserable, whether, you know, there's many different ways. It could be working out, it could be getting in a cold tub. You know, those things require a certain mentality. And man, the cold tub, yes, it sucks, especially when you start off, like, you know, you got to work yourself up a little bit to a few minutes and whatnot, right? But there's something going to work out, even if you don't want to. Like, not one time have I done a workout and not been happier and or feel better afterwards. Yes, I mean, you know, you can be tired and whatnot, but there's some kind of satisfaction inside of you that, man, this is probably going to be used for a funny video. I got to be careful.
SMX Cum?
Yeah.
Bro, how good is that, eh? That guy absolutely crushes it. I've given him way too much shit. Now I just embrace it.
Yeah.
Just go.
That's what it is. I mean, honestly, you could pick through any conversation and you'll always find something that you can make something sound funny.
Have you ever heard the clip of me talking about Eli coming down the hill at Millville? And I'm like, you could feel him coming.
Yeah,
I'm just I think so.
I mean,
I'm just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Every time I do it too, I'm like, oh, that's going on there.
Yep.
Dude, I feel like James on the broadcast is like doing it on purpose now.
Yeah.
Surely.
I mean,
there's a couple that he's let go where I'm like, bro, you had to have done that on purpose.
And the funny part is, dude, however you do it, you'll do something wrong. Like, somebody will find something to complain about. You know what I mean? So at that point, you just got to say, fuck it.
Well, you're on a TRT.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I saw that because my voice is deeper now.
I know. Well, yeah, we'll add like a fucking filter too to this.
And make it like really gory.
No, I'm with you, but like just the physical and the mental side of it. And bro, even just being out on the mountain bike. Like today was so much fun.
I haven't mountain biked in forever, first day back. And I honestly, even beyond my career, I love surfing, but mountain biking is something that I've done a lot. And man, it'd be kind of sick to go that route. Like, I do really love riding a mountain bike. I'm not out here near, maybe I need to need to go back to making more trips out here so I can ride with people. That was ultimately why I came out for the week, is because, well, we've been planning this for a while, and, you know, I was supposed to fly back and forth to Florida all the time, but then I'm like, why not stay here a week, hang out with the team, and knock off a bunch of stuff? But part of that was, first off, podcasts, and then also just going to dinner with people that we haven't really connected lately, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Dude, Chase is such a good dude too, eh? I'm glad you guys have still got that relationship.
Yeah, we guys go way back now, right? Like, I told him that earlier too. Like, we've been, you know, in the beginning state, he would come over to my house to take a nap on the couch just to,
Just to survive.
hang out. And and just like everything was so new. And, fast forward a bunch of years, like still hanging out. And it's fun. It's fun to have people in the sport too, to kind of hang out with and talk to, because when we get down to the track, whether it's for practice or racing, like we always bullshit. And
it's got to get rid of a bit of the, maybe not anxiety. Like, I don't know how. I feel like you're not the kind of guy that feels a lot of that nerves and anxiety, but I guess it's just got to get rid of some of like the tension, and I guess you're like there for a bit of time too, and you're just sort of like you're waiting to make a start.
I don't know. I would much rather have a conversation with a friend than just sitting there in silence. Sometimes we show up and you think you're late, and then it's 13. We're on the gate and you're 15 minutes before like parade lap, and you're down there for quite some time without even touching the bike. So
how's the vibe on the stadium floor these days? Like, does it go through waves like in your career where it's like very chill, super serious, no one's friends, everyone's friends? Like, does it kind of change, or has it always been the same?
Everyone's friends, probably not so much, because that never happens. But no, honestly, I haven't paid that much attention to it. I'm kind of like always the same. I try, I'm definitely in my zone. Practice is a little bit easier. I don't care so much for qualifying, whatever, and you can fuck around a little bit more. For the races, I'm definitely a bit more focused, but I still have conversations and try to keep it light. And it just depends from race to race, honestly, because you go through races where everything's a lot more relaxed and you can mess around a little bit more, and then there's other races where you need to kick yourself in the ass a little bit, and you might need to hunker down a bit and like get your shit together. So it kind of just depends, honestly. It depends the weekend. At least that's how it is for me. I'm probably probably like the weather a little bit, but no, I try to keep it super cool and calm and just be pretty relaxed.
Yeah. How was this season? Obviously been pretty good so far.
Yeah, really good. I'm excited with how it started up. Like, Did
you expect it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you even expect shit
not
these
to
days?
Bring up sickness, but I literally it just never freaking fails before Anaheim 1 that everybody gets sick, and some people have it now and whatnot, but I was feeling really good, and then sure enough, 10 days or so before A1, I just started getting so sick, and
It's just kids, eh?
No, I had it first actually before my
really?
kids. Yeah.
No way.
And it's crazy because we haven't really gone anywhere. Like, we eat at home most of the time. I go out to the track, so I don't know where, what, and how. You'll never really know, but I just got super sick, and so that made me less confident, because by the time A1 came around, I just wasn't. I was fine, like over the hump of like feeling crappy or whatever, but you just don't feel 100%.
100, yeah.
So on that side of things, I was like, I was still pretty relaxed throughout the day, and my practices weren't that good, but it felt like just going to another race. We've done that so much now, right, that I stayed super calm, and same going into the main event. And obviously I was riding well as well, and started off with a second, and then backed it up last week with a fourth. It's all, I want to step it up. Like, I have some things to work on. Little bit on the bike, little bit of me, just really tinkering. I have a really good base with everything right now, and sometimes, you try to fix an area on the track and you create other problems in other areas. So I tread carefully, right? Like, I have a good base, and sometimes it's more important for me to know my motorcycle than trying to fix something and kind of like, I don't know. You just don't know if it was the right way until you really go racing and then feel it out more. I know my motorcycle well right now, and that helps. And yes, it could be a little bit better just this weekend. You know what I mean? Like, there's little things, but I think everybody feels that. So I just want to take it easy and see if I can. So I want to better myself a little bit. But overall, we're in a really, really good spot. And I think I've taken my time a little bit too much in the beginning laps on purpose, in a sense, honestly. I was really just been trying to figure out, like, coming back also after sickness, like 20 minutes and racing. Like, I don't want to just go and blow myself out and then drop back, right? So I'm really trying to gauge in these couple of races to see where I'm at. And I'm very aware of, as soon as the gate drops, that I have to go, and I can. I just, for right now, we're in a good spot, and I'm going to definitely try and work on that.
I love where you're at with the whole Suzuki thing too. Like, going from HRC, you had the world's sickest off season where you tested all the different bikes, and then you landed back at Suzuki, and everyone's like, the f*** is he doing?
I know. And everybody always thought they knew what I was doing, like, weeks before. It's just funny. You read all kinds of stuff, right? But yeah,
but you ended up where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that experiment has worked massively.
I'm not going to lie. So after I went to Paris, did really well in Paris, right?
What bike did you ride in Paris?
It was the Firepower Honda team with Yuri.
That's right.
JB was like my teammate. It was just like when we were at Factory Honda in a sense, and we had such a good, like, honestly, some of my funnest times racing. Like I'm so close with JB, right? Like
he's the best.
I really look up to him. He's like a mentor. He has this inner calmness. Like he's pretty much been through like the tough times with me, and saw me at rock bottom, or when I felt like I was at rock bottom. And so he was always there for me. And then that time, right, like we were just teammates again. We're traveling the world. We're doing World Supercross. We're going to Australia. So we were always together. Up in Salt Lake for the residency, we were all, the entire family and me and Court, and that's when Court was pregnant. We rented a house and stayed up there for 6 weeks, and we've gone on so many trips together. So he's like really, really close to me, and I'm close to him. So went to Paris. We had an insane night, or both nights really. I ended up becoming king of Paris, and JB was on the podium. And obviously I wasn't with HRC anymore, but I was still in a Honda, right? So I valued that a lot, what I had. Like, we haven't done much testing, but I was riding really well, and I came off of Paris, and then, that was that door open to be with the Firepower team. So I still wanted to ride a Suzuki. I came up to, I may have been actually, I think I went to Barcelona after that night to go ride the Starkvark, right? And then from there I went, flew to Madeira, I believe. It was during that time. And I wanted to ride it. I was trying to stay open-minded. You can't make a decision until you've crossed all your boxes. And so I was very open-minded, but also valued what I had with Yarif. It was, kind of established. We'd done World Supercross together. I was feeling pretty good, and I knew the guys really well. That was really important to me. Martin, Davalos, like we've been longtime friends. Really like him. Yarif and the entire crew. Like, I don't know. It just was very new to me too, because I was with HRC for 6 years, right? Then I was with RCH, and even with KTM, I was for a long time. So it was a little bit new territory, being with another team, new people, new everything.
And it's like technically a step down.
Yeah, like I said, I established a winning motorcycle, and I could ride well, and we did Paris and like World Supercross. So I had something there where I had a base.
Yeah.
Whether that's bike, myself, the people, like relationships with the team and everything. So I had something established there. So I came to Madeira, and I don't know, I was not 80%, 70%, but I was like, leaning towards Firepower because I know those guys and we've had a really good thing. So I came there, and as soon as I rode the bike, and Larry was new, like there were definitely a few new people on the team. So it wasn't all warm and fuzzy right off the bat. I think everybody was trying to learn each other, figure out. Yeah, like it was a little bit different. But nonetheless, like I actually liked going to Madeira, and I liked riding their tracks. It just felt different. Like their shop's right down the street, and I rode the bike, and I don't know, I just had something, felt cool to me, and it felt familiar in certain ways, different but familiar. And in general, though, when I rode it, there was a lot of work that had to be done: motor, clutch, suspension. But I felt like the bones of the bike were good, where I'm like, man, like this has some stability. Like I don't know, I feel like I could figure this out. Of course, it was a big gamble, right? But then, yeah, going that direction was actually, even for myself, a decision that I almost didn't expect. But I really went with my gut, and I wanted to do this. There was something there that I really liked, and ultimately, I wanted to see a different color front fender. That was like, after being with one brand for so long and feel like I had my struggles, like bottom line was that I wanted to see a different color front fender for sure.
It almost like fits your personality in a way too. Like I feel like there's always just been an element with you of like wanting to do your own thing and like wanting to like be your own guy. I just feel like making that call, you kind of said fuck you to everyone else's expectations and the industry and the factory, right? Not the industry, like that's probably the wrong way to say it, but there definitely felt like an element of that.
It's probably unexpected, like, right?
Watch this.
Yeah.
Watch me.
No, and during that time, it gets brought up on podcasts and whatnot. And I even look back sometimes, because in that very moment, I'm honestly just like, I'm living my life. I have no team, no nothing. And there's
felt so good.
A lot to figure out. And just how much cool shit I was able to do in a short period of time. And honestly, me posting about it, I never thought about like, oh, I'm going to mess with these people, whatever. It was purely just like, hey, I'm riding a Yamaha over here. And and then of course, I never rode the Cowies. I never rode the PC bikes. They got done pretty late.
Oh, so you didn't get to ride that Cowie?
No, I actually never did. I hit up Mitch and, building bikes and stuff. Like, they obviously has a ton of work to do with the 250 guys and his actual team, right? But, like, I felt like I needed a backup plan big time, Like, at one point I was like, oh, maybe we'll just rough it for a little bit, I get Mitch to build a couple of bikes and we'll just, like, I'll ride the first few rounds and, I don't know, just see if we can do some damage that way. Yeah, it would have been a cool story too, because the thing is, like, every time I feel like I'm backed in a corner like that, like,
yeah,
I don't know, I would have, like, worked my ass off and, like, really, 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 really tightened everything up to, like, make this thing work.
Well, like you said, you like that stress.
Yeah, you're right. I function the best under stress. Yeah.
Dude, it's weird when you say that. Like, I feel like, because stress is a hormone. Like, it's a chemical and it's a drug, really, if you, like, break it down, right? I feel like people that spend their whole life doing extreme sports or come from, like, gnarly backgrounds with, like, gangs and violence, and I feel like there's a level where you get addicted to that stress hormone and you get addicted to that just like a drug, dude. It's pretty crazy.
I would agree. It's, and then it could be things like whether you're crunched for time or you have so many things scheduled in one day, and there's things that you don't want to do, but you have to do it anyways. And you're kind of just, like, trying to juggle time and then going racing on top of it. But then again, like I said, it's when I'm almost at my happiest, and, you got to just figure it out. How can you make the best situation of whatever your stress could, is or whatever. Like I said, not everybody feels the same every single day, and you may not have a good day of riding. You're about to go racing. Like, work on yourself, calm that down a little bit, and figure it out. So yeah, I don't know. It's, people always want vacation and taking time off and whatnot, and as good as that sounds sometimes,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't get the best out of you.
No.
So, of all the bikes you rode, do you think that it maybe gives you a bit of a perspective of the guys that you race against, where you're like, I know where their bike's going to be good, or I know what they can do there? Like, does it give you any info?
Yes and no. There's definitely things you can take away about, like, when you jump on a Yamaha with whatever suspension, it could be stock, certain bikes have certain characteristics, right? And then you're really in tune with your bike. If it tucks the front, or if it squats in the rear, or, like, it feels heavy, or it feels nimble, or the gear, like, whatever it may be. You get the general idea of riding, whatever bike you ride. You get a general idea. Having said that, though, I have noticed that even on my own bike, like, it's crazy how certain settings can make a motorcycle feel. And then you can change, like, you could be so unhappy and it feels like shit. It's hard. It doesn't. And then if the shims align and everything aligns, and you figure out after trying, and then all of a sudden you have a motorcycle that you really, really like, that's how crazy settings are sometimes, and, ride a stock bike, and then, like, Eli's bike might feel completely different. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of ways you can go.
There's a big window.
There is a big window, but yeah, overall you can just tell if a bike is stable and has a big window, and you can make changes, and it doesn't just completely throw everything off. Yeah, you can get an idea for that for sure.
What did you think of the Yamaha when you rode it? Because you rode the club one, didn't you?
Yes. Give me one sec.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're, like, one of the rare dudes that's got to ride a lot of the modern, like, 450 offerings.
Well, yes, but no, because I was on HRC, right? And then I was Firepower. It's also Honda, just made by different people, which is also interesting because, like I said, it can
different paths, different settings.
Yeah, everything. And then I rode the Stark electric bike. That's a little bit one that's out there. It just feels way different than anything else. And then I really only rode the Yamaha.
Okay.
And then the Cowies, they were ready, but it was ready so late where actually at that point I had already signed with Suzuki, I believe. So I never got to ride those. So it was, I got a feel for the Yamaha, yeah. The tough part was that's when that bike was new. It's a new model that came out, and the clutch, like, it was slipping, like, pretty good. Like, we got, and not, like, from me using it, but I think that was some kind of production thing. I think it got recalled. I'm not 100% sure, but the clutch got fried pretty quickly, so it was slipping, and then there was no suspension guy there. So I really...
It wasn't, like, a good...
It wasn't a true, like, a good test. Like, if I really want to feel comfortable, like, we have to have a suspension guy here so I can at least make a couple of changes, because it might be way too soft or way too stiff. And I'm like, man, it needs a big step in one way or the other. So in general, if you do a test like that, I believe that you need to have somebody there that can at least, if the rider needs to or wants to, make changes just to like get a better feel for it,
Yeah. I have a friend that rode your bike and he rode Christian Craig's bike. He was doing some shower testing.
Supercross or outdoor?
Outdoor. Hated your bike. Loved Christian Craig's bike.
Really?
Do you run a whack setting, do you reckon? Like, in terms of, is it like very Ken Roczen unique to you?
It probably depends the bike. Because like my 16 Suzuki, for example, I think was super easy to ride.
Well, it had to be because you just fucked up the entire planet on that motorcycle.
It just depends who you work with. Like certain suspension people can make your ideas become more true. You know what I mean? Like, or you can work with it. Everybody has a little bit of their own style of dampening or whatever. You know what I mean? So, but I just had a couple of years with HRC where I just was not.
Just couldn't get it.
I could not get it. Like honestly, one of my best years was probably 2021. I think my Supercross bike was decent. Again, it could have been maybe a little stiffer or whatever, but like I feel like I had something where I was like, man, this is really good and how I like it. And same with outdoors. And it was also one of my strongest years. I think I got second in Supercross or something like that, and maybe second or third in outdoors.
Isn't it crazy that you don't remember?
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many years now.
That's wild, bro. Like,
no, I do,
best rider in the world.
I think 2021. I believe I ended up third in the outdoor championship because I think I had a start crash or something like that in Hanktown, and I think I put my foot into somebody's wheel and like it's really squeezed my foot, and I DNF'd that one, and that's I think what put me a position back. But that was probably one of my best years with Honda. Probably also because after my injury, 2017, 18, like that was like a big, I had to really find myself of,
dude,
which way to go, what to do, and bike and this and that. So I think it was just a build up to 2021 where I was like, okay,
yeah,
have a
you
good
got
setting.
The show back on the road.
Yeah, I was working really hard as well, and I was working with Blake, and we did a bunch of unique stuff that was new to him on the training side of things as well. And with breathing exercises and stuff like that. And yeah, in the end, I had a really good year.
What was the 17 bike like? Because 17 was, probably that had to be one of the worst years of your life.
Yeah.
But that fucking motorcycle and you before that, it was like over.
The 2017 Honda was probably one of my favorite, besides the earlier or recent or earlier Suzuki's, like 2016 and, earlier than that.
So the one you're on now.
Yeah, whichever way you want to put it.
Sorry, mate.
Whichever way you want to put it. Anyways, but the 2017 Honda was one of my favorite stock bikes that I've ridden in a long time.
Can you pull up the stock bike? I just want to remember what that thing looked like.
Had a Kickstarter still too.
Yep. That's why you did so well.
Well, I did race. OEM was Kickstarter, and then my bike actually had an electric start on it, but...
That was twin pipe, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was, I remember because we had a lot of rain during the January time, or, the winter time here and while we were racing. And I remember just going to Nuevo or Star West back there and just riding the stock bike. And because I was riding my Supercross bike, and I don't know, that stock bike, I could just jump on it and I felt so comfortable on it. And I loved that thing. I really did.
Could you find that? There's a clip of him at Star West on that stock bike.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I remember watching it and being like, dude, he's fully ripping that thing. But yeah, I remember watching you ride that bike.
Yeah, I don't know. It may have been on my Instagram back in the day or something. Like, I'm not...
I feel like it was
What's the place? It's not Star West, though, right? Like, where the...
Nah.
It wasn't.
I feel like it was like a Swap Moto video. Maybe Swap wasn't around. Maybe it was Transworld or something. But I just remember watching a video of you ride. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Star West, dude.
Yeah, I remember there was just, I forgot what the track was called, but we did like a Honda show, whatever, like intro or something like that on the East Coast somewhere. That track was pretty sweet.
So yeah, is this it?
Oh no, that's that Honda intro.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that bike, and it was really, really fun to ride.
Do you sometimes think that factory bikes, they just make them so like too different from stock, or do you guys like have to do that?
No, because in 2016, I went from, RCH was 2015 and 16. I
Yeah.
hated the bike in 2015. It was terrible.
Really?
Hated it. And 2016, late 15s, Oscar Wirdeman came into play, and then he was my mechanic, right? And whatever we did to the bike, and I think we ran a lot of like stock parts and stuff, and made a bunch of changes. Basically the same motorcycle, but completely different at the same time. And it was like the best and easiest bike I've ever ridden.
Yeah, because 16, dude, you just dominated.
Yeah, I never, for outdoors, like we went up to Zaka to test, and we plugged whatever in, motor in, this in, that in. I'm like, yep, perfect. Yep, good. Yep, great. And I just never touched a clicker, and then off we went.
That's so crazy. Yeah. And that was, how many motos did you lose that season?
I think it was 4
was it
total.
3 or 4?
One was Glen Helen, because so I had this super sick pressure release valve for the air fork that I rode, because they would always pump up like quite a bit to where like it wouldn't even feel like the same motorcycle. And they built a pressure release valve, and it was kind of like a kill switch. And I was only able to push it as I'm jumping, so the fork's fully extended. You push it, and just the excess air would come out. But I don't know if some dirt got in there or whatever. I think it just pushed it as it was, like I was on the ground, whatever, and it just lost all the air. I'm not 100% sure what happened to it, but I definitely lost all the air. And Glen Helen, and we had like maybe 2.5 or 3 laps to go, and like a freaking almost 3-minute lap time. Like if you have to roll every single jump, you're out there for 1 lap for freaking 5 minutes, So I'm like, man, let's just bring this home. And so I lost that one. I definitely lost Southwick. I tried really hard. We had a really good battle, me and Eli.
Yeah.
But he went 1-1 there, and I believe I lost one in Washougal. So it was 4 total.
That's mental, bro.
Yeah, it was a good...
And especially to do that with Eli Tomac in the field.
Yeah, it was, man, it was a year, like probably one of my favorite years. And it was, I don't know, my age, like I was just at the right time. I was strong as an ox, really liked my bike, and just, I don't know, it was a year where like maybe I couldn't put a foot wrong, I guess, if that makes sense.
What, like Eli was talking about just like that flow state in 15, and he was having those motos just in like that crazy flow state. Was that season to you?
I think for me, what was the biggest thing is that I loved my bike, hands down. I think it was maybe a bit more of a funky setup, in general, but that's exactly how I liked it. And I think I just trusted it. And, I think it made me feel a little bit like my GP style. And I don't even know if the setting may have been from Europe, honestly. I'm not 100% sure, but it felt so familiar to me. And I think that's kind of like how my bikes were back in the day when I was in Europe. And I just had a crazy connection to my motorcycle. And really, of course, I was strong and fit. That's what got me the confidence and everything. But I could just almost feel like I'd do whatever I wanted. And sometimes even at the practice track, the thing would step out. We have this long, Peyton always talks about it, my practice mechanic. I have this long roller section into the speed jump, right? And our tracks in 2016 were super beat up because it never rained. We always left it the same. And, the thing would step out and do all kinds of stuff. But I knew exactly what it was doing. So I was able to just, go for it. And Peyton was like, dude, and I'm like, oh, I didn't feel that bad to me because, I don't know. I just knew what it was doing. I had a crazy connection to my motorcycle, and that, in the end, that was just a recipe for success.
Man, that would have been the best feeling.
Mm-hmm. It was, because when you can go from race to race to race without touching a clicker, and you've ridden in mud, you've ridden in hard pad, you've ridden in tacky, and it kind of like is always feeling pretty decent, that's like a solid mental spot to be in where you're just like, okay, I can just focus on racing and get my ducks in a row that way and just go.
Yeah, dude. No, that would have been insane. I just remember watching that season and just being completely blown away.
Yeah.
By just like, even just the lines you were taking and just speed, just like heads up speed. And like, even Eli was saying he just remembers that roller section in Millville and you just blew past him and he's just like, what is going, like, how is this dude doing this?
Yeah. And the crazy part was, because, that race gets brought up often, or I see videos pop up all the time or whatever, and I was so locked in that it didn't feel like I was, smashing it. It just came so, now that I think back, it just came so easy to me. Of course, in that moment, like, I wanted to win, had to win, and it's tough and whatever, but now looking back, like, I didn't feel like I did anything out of this place. But it was just, like I said, I was really, really, really connected. And I think ultimately, yeah, I just, at that year, I just was faster than everybody for some reason. Yeah, but then, it's still not now you can look back and I won 20 motos or whatever, but at that point, you don't know if you're going to win that many motos because it's all the unknown. So I had to definitely work for it mentally and physically to make that happen. But now that I look back, yeah, I'm just like every weekend I was just like super connected.
Even Ricky said that, like he just did the pod the other day, and he's like, man, you're going on perfect season, you're going like you're 22, and you still don't think you're going to win the last 2 motos. Mm-hmm. Like mentally, you're still trying not to lose.
Well, it's a lot of, you look at something that you don't want to do, which is lose those last 2 motos when you've just won 22. You will focus on that. Like for some reason, we always focus, on the negative. You have to force yourself to like not do that, and it's not always easy. But yeah, for some reason, we always go to like the worst case scenario or like almost to the negative side of thing. It may be like a natural way for humans to think. It's just not healthy always, you know what I mean? You shouldn't because you don't know. It could go either way. Then it goes good, you win both motos, and then you're like, what the heck did I stress for?
Why was that
yeah,
different?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you think like evolutionary, right? Like the humans that are going to survive are the ones that hear a rattle in the bush and they're like, is that a tiger?
Yeah.
Because if it is and you don't get the jump on the tiger,
yeah,
you ain't living, son.
You ain't living.
And then so you go to 2017 and then sign with HRC and just completely destroy everybody at the first 2 rounds of Supercross.
Yeah, that was so I came over and at first actually it's kind of funny we talk about it now. So the first bike that I got from Honda was the Trace bike, but it was the old one, the 2016, right? So I just come off of 16, just really good year, really got it going in Supercross, smashed outdoors, just basically on top of my game, right? Like I loved my motorcycle, I knew it. I had so much confidence in my bike. Well, then you switch teams and I got Trey's bike. It was 2016. I ride the bike. I come in and I'm like, Peyton, I hope that the new bike's better than this. Just because like way different setup than what I like. His bike was super dead on the rear and the forks were stiff. The bike was so fast. I'm like, dude, how do you ride this, Trey? We laugh about it now, but because everybody, you like I said, you can have 2 Hondas there or 2 Suzukis. You can ride my setup and then somebody else's setup and they will feel way different. You know what I mean? And we'd like different style bikes. And yeah, it just was like, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can win on this thing. It was just way different.
God, that's got to be the worst feeling.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now, right? Like it's hard to remember exactly, but I remember just, and I was talking to Shorty at that point because he was our test rider.
And you guys were always close.
We were always close, and he did a bunch of the production testing and whatnot, and he's like, don't worry, the new bike's better, I promise you. So it was nice getting some reassurance. And then sure enough, like I said, the 2017 Honda, the new one that came out, there was something really right on that bike. I love that thing. And I had electric start on my bike, until the crash. And then down the road in 2018, we actually went, that's when the bike was actually stock with electric start. And we actually put a Kickstarter back on for Butts Creek.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it handled better.
Handled better with a Kickstarter.
Yeah, like I think the electric start, I think they have a little motor sitting, right? So when you start it up and it's spinning, so when that weight sits high in the bike, your center of gravity weight changes, and then you get a lot of like teeter-tottering, right? Diving in the front, squatting in the rear. So and something like that, you put a little bit of weight, it makes a massive difference. It all depends on where it sits in the motorcycle.
It's wild that you can feel that.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could too, honestly. Like if we were to give you four laps, let's say you do a warm-up, whatever, you give you 4 laps and be like, hey, 2 laps, you're gonna take the bike out, feel how heavy it is. Do you feel it in the air? Does it turn worse? Does it pull you out? Like, does it pull you right as you're turning left? And then you go put the Kickstarter on. Like, you will feel if you really hone in on yourself, and you guys got to pick out a few spots throughout the track. And how easy is it for you to complete that turn compared to what you had before? And that's how you make your decision on whether it's better or not. So I believe that if maybe with the right guidance, you know what I mean? I think you
really
could
know what you're looking for.
Yeah, like
I'm surprised the things that I can tell and can't tell. Like I did a test. Kiefer had a 350, like a modded 350, and then a stock 450. And he's like, you come and we'll just like test. We'll do a lap time or whatever. And I got off the 450. I rode both bikes, and he's like, "How was it?" And I was like, "Dude, the fucking handlebars, like, those handlebars feel way shorter. And he just laughed. He's like, yeah, they're a millimeter shorter.
1 mil.
And it fully was like, I couldn't get my head around riding the bike. But, you know, like I know, I obviously you can feel something like that. But some stuff I'm like, don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like we've invested our entire life into this thing, you know?
For sure.
So there's definitely something to be said that if you don't, yes, you're going to have a harder time telling what you like and what you don't like and what the difference is. But like for a general idea or something big like that, I think
it's just surprising that is a big change. You wouldn't think that motor would make, or like the electric start motor would make that big a difference.
But honestly, it's with anything on not even cars, right? There's a million moving parts. So if you change something here, it's going to affect the leverage on here. Like everything changes with the tiniest change. So, and some are more drastic at your feel, right? And some are just like, yeah, it's like, you know. And sometimes you have to go back and forth. Actually, most of the time you have to go back and forth because you can have your base, you try something, and you're like, hey, I don't know, it wasn't that much of a difference. You go back. That's when you really feel the difference. So I go back and forth a lot. Like I don't just base everything off of my very, very first thought. You know what I mean? Like you have to sometimes go back and forth to really determine if it's the right way to go.
Yeah. So you do those first couple rounds. Where are you at in 2017? Like that had to be maybe like the peak or like some of the best that you'd ever felt.
Obviously, looking back now, you can say cocky, but I don't know. I had so much confidence. First off, also because I didn't have like any EBV problems, you know what I mean? Like I just was young, I felt healthy, I felt strong, and it was a lot more the training side of things. I always had to be careful in certain areas, but it was a lot more forgiving, you know? I didn't walk such a fine line of like overtraining, undertraining, or whatever. So I just felt a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
And then with that, you know, you build your platform and it goes higher and your level goes higher. And at that point, I was just at my absolute peak. Like new team, I did end up liking the bike, and I was so strong, so fit, and I could just. There was nothing in my head that told me that I can't do this or anything, nor a doubt, honestly.
That would have been a crazy place to be in, and just to be winning that easily. Like I remember just thinking like, dude, he might just win every race.
Yeah, and it's definitely also a lot of pressure, but at that point, like when I have no doubt in my mind, I'm strong, I'm fit, like I love my bike. It's almost, for me, I'm thinking, I'm like, I can't do it. You know, you can grenade yourself, but in general, like when it is just about like crossing off the boxes, I'm fit, I'm strong, I like my bike. There's nothing else that I could have done to make me better, honestly. So at that point, I was like, I did everything I can. And I also know my capabilities of how well I can ride, right? And then, that was just a recipe for like, I'm going to annihilate these guys.
And then that crash happens. That has to be like, that's the rock bottom you were talking about before.
Yes and no.
Really?
No, there's just different and other things down the road. You know what I mean?
Is that with the sickness?
Yeah. And we can get to that in just a second. But right then and there, I crashed, and I honestly, now it's I didn't even hit my head. So it was a gnarly crash, right? But literally the only thing that I messed up, the only thing, is my elbow and arm. But like nothing on the head. Like I didn't hit my head. I wasn't knocked out. I had no concussion, like nothing. And like I plowed into that, jump from being really high, and actually catapulted forward. So like the speed of everything, like it's just gnarly that nothing else happened. And right then and there, I laid there. I didn't even feel like I was laying there actually for a long time. I don't remember it like being that long, but I think my arm was so fragile that like I could barely move. Seriously, like I could barely, because everything was so wobbly and, compounded, and I didn't really see it right then and there, but I could, every little bit of movement that I made just was like insane pain. You know what I mean? And then, right when I was on the ground right there, I felt a little bit empty, I'm like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
And I definitely knew that my arm was broken. Like, not that bad, but I'm like, oh, fuck, my arm hurts. Like, pretty bad. And then the crazy part was, like, they cart me off, and I'm sitting on the back of the ambulance, and the guy, not the doctor, but the nurse, the ambulance guy, whatever, he was there and, like, trying to take care of me, and he goes from one side to another, and his jacket was open, and my arm, like, I'm kind of like holding my arm like this, and his jacket flops open and like full on rips my fingers and like rips, my whole arm. And I remember fucking lost it on him. And then everything after that is a blur, honestly. They gave me some kind of crazy drug because they were trying to pop my elbow back in, but I don't think it would go or whatever, and it was hurting like crazy. And they gave me something, and it felt like I was dead. Yeah, I don't know. It felt like I was dead, but I wasn't. It was wild. Like I had my eyes open. I could hear. I don't remember if I could really see, but it was this odd, craziest thing because you didn't really feel anything. You couldn't do anything, but I could hear them in a sense. It was fucking crazy.
It's probably ketamine, bro.
Maybe, yeah. I've no clue, but it was wild. Like I was out, but there, but not really. It was the oddest thing.
Fuck, dude. When you look back, what went wrong in that crash, you think?
Really, it was just getting off the tabletop, and my it obviously kind of like rebounded or kicked me up. It was probably gullied out a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But then the hardest part was I think my shock bottomed out and it ripped my heels off on the takeoff. That's why I ended up supermanning. Like I didn't jump off that way, you know? So as it was bucking me forward and I'm supermanning, like I have no grip on the bike. I can't like try to correct it or do anything to do something different or figure out in the split second how I can land with the least amount of damage. So then it ripped my heels off and I just flew over the bars. And it was really just like, you know, when you dive off of something really high into the water and you're kind of just waiting and you brace on impact to like feel the pain or like kind of like stiffen up, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what I did. Like as soon as right before impact, I just tried to like absorb as much as I could. And I don't know, maybe those little differences. I mean, it's not like I can do much because I am flying overhead, you know, ass over tea kettle. But like that little bit, I don't know. I just try to absorb as much as I possibly could.
It is crazy you didn't get more hurt.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Like, it just could have gone so much. I mean, it was obviously like crazy, crazy bad. But dude, that could have just been.
It could have been a lot more than an arm.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And then so going through that, you go straight to Vail. You're with Courtney at this time, right? Mm-hmm. So
I'm with Courtney and Steve, my agent, Astafin.
Yeah.
I got taken to Irvine first.
Oh, right.
So I got taken to Irvine, and they kind of made it seem like it's not that big of a deal, whatever. We have the plastic surgeon here, whatever. We'll get you fixed up, and you'll be on your way type thing. Well, my surgery kept getting like pushed back, and it was the next day, the next morning. I must have slept a little bit. I vaguely remember, and actually one time in Vail, there's like, I was there for 3.5 weeks, and I like hardly remember. Like there's little bits and pieces, but I must have been pumped up with stuff. But anyways, so I was in Irvine, and then it kept getting pushed back, and Steve was like, no, like we need to go to a specialist. And I think he was on a bunch of calls, and we ended up just hiring a private jet because I could not fly commercial, and we had to get there as soon as possible. So we flew from, I believe, Orange County, probably, up to Vail. And I remember being in the plane, and it was the gnarliest pain ever because, you know, anytime you have an injury, you go in the plane, what does it do? Swells up even more. Hurts like fuck. Like, I was miserable. I remember, like, trying to sleep and, like, constantly waking up. Like, and it was so painful where you're, like, constantly moving, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what to do. And, like, there was nothing I could do but wait.
Yeah.
We got there and
it's just unbearable.
It really is unbearable. Like it was fucking gnarly, you know, now that I think back. And then once I got there, I mean, I got taken into surgery right away. And
so what was the complications where it was you were there for 3 weeks?
So I had a compounded radius on my wrist. I had a compounded ulna, which is the bone on the outside of the wrist.
Yeah.
And then my radial head on my elbow was completely sheared off. Like it was gone pretty much. And then I had, my elbow was dislocated. My wrist was dislocated. And then I ended up getting compartment syndrome. And what happens with that, I'm sure you know, like your muscle swells up so bad, it cuts off the blood supply. And once it's for too long and the muscle starts dying, you're not bringing the muscle back. Like once the muscle is dead, it's done. And so I got into surgery, got out, and Dr. Viola came in and he's like, oh boy, you know, like you did a number on your arm. He said that it was almost too late. I don't know what that means. I do know what it means, but he was like, dude, we had to get you in there if you want to keep your arm, you know? And at that point, my arm was wide open. Like I had an external fixator in, you know, my arm's so swollen that after they cut it, like they can't get it back close, right? So day after day, I had, I had surgery, and then it's probably 1 day off or something like that. And I kept getting, you know, probably surgeries like maybe eight days, almost in a row. I think one day break or something like that, right? So I ended up having 8 surgeries in the first bit that I was there. And yeah, it just was crazy. I was pumped, and I wasn't so much pain. I was complaining to the nurses about it, and they're like, dude, you don't push the dilaudid enough, you know? And I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm using a lot of drugs right now. And they're like, no, you're not nowhere even close to what people normally take. I don't really want to be close to that. But at that point, I said, fuck it. And I was like pushing it. And you just start, like, you get a little bit of relief. And it's like the best thing you've ever felt. You know what I mean? Just get a little break from the brutal pain, like day in, day out. And then, you know, they keep digging in there. Like, it just felt gnarly. You know what I mean? It was brutal. And though it's probably a good thing I didn't remember much.
Yeah.
In the beginning, Shorty was there as well. I got so many messages and stuff.
The whole industry was like hurting for you.
I've heard.
You know?
And honestly, I was way out of the loop. Like, I actually pretty secluded myself for a while from the sport in general.
What was that? Just because of just it, like it hurt, like just to be in that or knowing.
Yeah, I don't know. First off, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to race again, right? It was a hard pill to swallow. I was so far away from everything. And
from the top.
Yeah.
From the very top, too.
And then I think it was more so maybe after the hospital stay that I secluded myself, because right then and there I was worried about other stuff than Instagram. And just was a brutal time. And what else was there? What did we do? Oh, no, there was my wife's family was in town. They were all there, right? Like trying to support and everything. So that was really nice. And they were all up there.
People too.
Yeah, very good people. And they ended up all going out to dinner like later that night. And I was pumped up of drugs, right? I'm trying to escape the hospital. Like, I take my freaking little wheel card with my IV drip and everything.
No.
Freaking bare ass showing in my gowns or whatever. And I'm freaking walking, like I'm talking to Cord. She's like, I'm coming, you know, you're whacked out of your mind, right? But so I ended up starting to walk, and Greg, Court's dad, I think he came to the hospital or something, like to keep me in there and whatnot. But I was full on, like I was out of there. I'm like, I'm going to dinner.
No way, bro. That's so external fixator, just like walking with a cage on your arm.
Dude, it was gnarly. Yeah, and I remember freaking sitting on the toilet for the first time. Shorty was there. Like, it was just a fucking mess the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, I was a mess. Not emotionally, but just like, you know, I needed help wherever I could. I mean, I had my arm with the bandages and everything. I swear to you, that thing was 50 fucking pounds. Like showering with the freaking arm up in the air. I don't even know if I showered in the beginning. It was all wiping down, you know, as much as you could until, you know, I was a little bit more stable and I could actually like kind of move around and whatnot. It just was a gnarly time, dude. And no end in sight, you know?
Yeah, true way. Like you're in this for a fucking minute.
Yeah.
God.
Nope. Yep. In this for a minute. So then the 3.5 weeks go by, and we're ready to fly back to Florida for the first time in forever. And the last day, or maybe the second to last day, they did a little surgery on my leg. They took a little bone graft out of there, right? And put it into, I forgot what they used it for. If it was my wrist or whatever, I don't even know. Not a big deal. Like, it's just a small
Routine
surgery.
shit.
Shouldn't be that bad. Dude, my leg was hurting. I couldn't even like, it was fucking miserable. Like, and the scar is like this big right now, right? But they're like, oh, it's not a big deal. We just got to take some bone. A day or so, you'll be back. Dude, I was hurting. I could not walk. I was in a freaking wheelchair going down in the airport and stuff. Like,
your body's just over you,
I am
bro.
so like beyond like exhausted from everything, right? Like pain threshold, like everything. I was fucking over it.
Oh, think about like, dude, if that shit happens 100 years ago, you're dead.
Yeah, no kidding. You definitely don't have a freaking arm anymore.
Yeah, it's not that you're racing again, not that you're going to keep your arm. You're dead.
Yeah.
It's over.
It's nuts.
Your body cannot sustain that kind of injury 100 years ago.
So then on the way back, we're landing whatever. Sure enough, I get so sick, like beyond sick. I was already at the rock bottom. It's actually crazy. So right now I'm probably about 163 pounds, anywhere between 160 to 165, right? I left the hospital at 140, and I don't have like an ounce of fat on me right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I left there being 20 pounds lighter than I am right now, 20 to 25 pounds lighter. And I got sick, and it just was like, I thought I was dying just because like this thing's filleted open, right? Like my arm was throbbing so bad. I had a fever. Like I could not move. It was a brutal time. Yeah, it was gnarly. And so during that time, once I'm home, I'm like, man, I don't want anything to do with the sport. Like I'm not watching the races. No, nothing. It was actually pretty cool because my mom and dad finally came over.
Yeah.
Probably got to be hard as a parent, be on the other side of the world. You know, your kid just got really badly hurt.
On live TV.
Yeah, exactly. And so they came over, and it was actually pretty sweet. Like, they haven't been together for a long time. They were never married back in the day, but they've been separated for a long time, but they were cool with each other. But this was probably the first time in many, many, many years that my parents were over and we were a normal family.
Yeah.
It wasn't about racing. It just wasn't about racing. We were so far out, and we were just living from day to day. We were going out on the boat. We had a little puppy, Rio, right? Like our French bulldog. We just had her recently for like 2 months or something like that. And yeah, it just was like, we had dinner, we had breakfast. It was just normal shit that we did. And that hasn't happened in ages, because I was going to the US and there's just so much shit going on, and we were always racing. So there was just no time for a normal life, And then I was with Courtney too. Like, I don't, at that age, like, I don't want to be around my parents every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just, we were on different planets, honestly. And then that, there was, I guess, a positive thing to take out of like the first stages of this.
Man, when you were talking about like Steve making phone calls and having Courtney there, like, bro, the value in having good people around you, like a guy like Steve that will organize a fucking jet so that you can go and keep your arm, like, dude, cannot be said how important it is.
Whatever it takes. People. And honestly, like, never mind racing. Like, I wanted to keep my arm and do normal shit, Racing was on the back burner at that point, so there was not a doubt. And I've made decent money till then, you know what I mean? And like, whatever happens, happens. But I wanted to keep my arm, so whatever we have to do, we got to get it done.
Yeah. And so you were saying that wasn't like the rock bottom. Like, what? How does it get?
No, there's just other time, like injury-wise, yes, of course, like, the gnarliest one I've had. But honestly, then something snapped inside of me after a little bit where I'm like, I'm going to fucking come back. And there's nothing. I don't even know. I was laying in the grass. I was listening to podcasts. And it's like a light switch flipped on me. And I was just like, fuck this. I'm going full bore with this thing. And I just, in the beginning, I forced myself, but also not, because I had this almost like an epiphany or something like that, where I'm like, I can't just be messing around. Like, I got to put my mind to something. And then it was like, so far out from racing, right? Like, I still didn't watch any races or whatever, but we're so far away from anything racing. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes to like get back, see where we go. And it was a long period of time, but I just, I freaking worked at it. And I told myself, and I was a true believer, whether that ever happened or not, it probably didn't, because I was at my peak, but I told myself that I'm going to come back fucking better than I ever was before. And that was just a hardcore mindset that I needed to be able to get back to the point where I'm at now, and just went full bore. And there's not even a single doubt in my mind that I'm making this happen.
Man, I remember your first win back. We might have been doing a Supercross companion.
22?
Do you think that
like 2020 is what I meant. Yeah.
I think, fuck, I feel like we were doing a Supercross companion, bro. I felt that was one of the happiest I've ever felt watching a motorcycle race. Like, fuck, dude. I was like actually emotional. Not that I never thought it would happen, but like it should.
No, that's okay to say though.
But it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it was so fucking bad what happened to you, and everything that you went through. Like, you should have never been able to win again.
Yeah.
And get to that level. And I just remember when you won that race being so fucking happy.
Yeah, it definitely a big moment. But honestly, like, if you even go back, like, once I started riding again, never mind even racing, dude. When I started racing, and at that point, this was the best my arm has felt because of where it was, right? Now, years later, it was healing for years, literally. It was healing for years. Like, it's the best it's ever felt in general, But right then and there, if I were to go back, or like if I could take that arm, put it on, and give 2018 Ken my arm, I would probably, it would be, it was fragile. Like, it just, even when Dr. Viola said that I can slowly start riding and, like, do your thing and ride a little bit, I'm like, are you sure? Like, this thing is this big. I have no range of motion. Like, everything is stiff. My wrist was like frozen. Like, it just honestly almost wasn't ready to race it already, if that makes sense. Like,
when you first raced.
Yeah, like, it just
Really?
was still, it was so stiff, and like, my wrist didn't move at all. My elbow wasn't like getting extension, and I'm still a little bit locked, but I've got plenty of extension now. But just like the strength of it, I don't know. It just was not, like I said, it healed over years. It felt better each and every year. But at that point, it was still so like fresh feeling and fragile feeling, honestly.
Yeah. What was the first time you rode like? Did you go out in the track and be like,
I have some Instagram videos too. No, the first one I actually took because Christian Craig ended up taking my spot for outdoors, right? And they were at the sandbox, and I wasn't even supposed to ride yet. So it was like, really skinny, like barely got the external fixator off or whatever. And
no?
I mean, it was maybe a little bit further along, but I ended up going on Christian's bike and just like riding on the grass back and forth. And I wheelied it for a second, but I'm like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't do that. Like the thing's not ready for wheeling. But that was like the first time I even like swung a leg over a bike. And then when I started riding, my dad actually came over, and at that point, I haven't ridden in forever, right? I'm messing around with wrist braces and whatnot, but like it's crazy because you haven't ridden in so long, and then you start riding for a second, and I'm going slow, whatever, but I'm starting to get this adrenaline pump, like, fuck yeah, this is sick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just funny to think about. So it was, then I just started riding, and there was just a lot to figure out, like the wrist braces, how tight, like it just was fragile. It really was. So I had to, and honestly, I probably shouldn't have secluded myself from the sport so much, because when I came back and started racing basically a year later, I felt like I took a 5-year break in a sense, because I wasn't really surrounded by it or whatever. And then I came, and it just felt like I was gone for way longer than a year, to be honest.
Yeah. And I can see that, like mentally you just distance yourself so much, and like from people and from the events and the whole, like, and that would have been the longest you ever took since you were 3 years old, so it fully makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely, but I don't know. At that point, you do whatever you feel like you need it.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I could have done different is, I don't even know how to change that feeling, but there's probably a reason why I didn't want to watch racing or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like I was gone for so long. So like before Anaheim won the whole week, I'm freaking getting like adrenaline flashes, like I'm going to my first race ever. It was gnarly.
Man, there's that feeling though when, like you said, the first time you rode, like, there's been times in the last couple of years where I like haven't ridden for ages, or like I haven't been able to do jiu-jitsu for a few months, and you go back to training or a ride, and I'm like, I'll be calling my wife on the phone, like, I just took fucking drugs.
Yeah, like
straight up, I just took drugs. Like I'm driving home, like, woo.
Yeah, that was cool.
Absolutely.
No, it's funny that how that, like, if you do something day to day, like you're not always gonna have the
same feeling.
Yeah, you're not gonna have the same feeling. But then it was just so long ago, and then I was riding, and I was doing motos. I was stringing a few laps together, but I was doing motos, and fuck, it was sick, and I'm getting like, I'm pushing really hard, and I don't know. It's just funny how it's good.
Did it extend your career, do you think? Like in 2018, how old were you?
What do we have?
24, probably?
Yeah, 24, 25.
So you probably weren't really like thinking about retiring or anything like that.
No, that was like, I don't even think I was 25 yet.
Yeah, you would have been probably 23. Like 24.
Yeah. How long ago was it? What was it? 2018. Yeah. Yeah, 26, 25, 24, like somewhere around there. It's like some of those years, they kind of like, they just bunched together for me, like I think 17, 18, 19, it's all, I don't know, it's just kind of like one clump. But I think it was because I was so, I don't know, just trying to find my feet in a sense, you know what I mean? So they kind of like all bunched together a little bit. But so then we get to racing, and year goes by, and then 2018 I got the other hand injury, and honestly that was probably one of the rock bottoms.
Really?
Yeah, just
because you'd already climbed the mountain.
Fuck yeah, I've put in so much work, right? And then
and it was Cooper. The whole thing.
Yeah, I mean obviously we go way back, and definitely a bit of ego involved, but I just, at that point, if you look at my bike setup, like it was all soft and stuff, I don't know, I was trying to compensate probably, and just like, I was really just trying to figure out what the hell am I doing here again, you know what I mean? I got to kind of like find my feet. Shitty start or whatever, and I kind of got stuffed a little bit, I don't know, but I definitely wanted to run it in there, but I got on the throttle, and it just like spun at first, and then just, I think I hit some ruts or something, and my rear squished down, it just hooked up, and that was the end of that. But honestly, so then that happened, right? And I'm sitting on the track, and it kind of was like, I'm like, I don't know. I just felt really numb in a sense, because I knew my arm was fucked. Like I got into the Alpine Star crew, and they're taking an X-ray, and they're like, oh, it may just be a metacarpal or whatever. You might be like good for next week or whatever. And I'm like, if this is just a metacarpal in my hand and it's not a big deal, there's no fucking way, you know what I mean? Because like my hand's hurting, like I'm telling you.
I'm a bitch then if that's
I'm a
the case.
bitch, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gnarly, and I'm like, fuck, my hand, like it's just not good, you know? And I don't know, I just felt like, I'm like, fuck, this can't be happening right now, right? Then we went back to Vail, and sure enough, like, you know, I dislocated all of my metacarpals. I shattered second and fourth metacarpal. They were just sand, basically. They took a bone out on my hand. It's called the hook of the hamate because that thing doesn't heal really. So, fuck, it just was like my ligaments, I think, were messed up too. And I'm like, dude, this is just a gnarly like hit in the gut again, you know? And that one did me good just as in like I was putting so much energy and so much everything into that. And I'm getting 4 races in and then I'm out where I'm just like, fuck, I just felt like my soul left me. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
I get that.
Yeah.
Dude, like there's just, I mean, I feel like a lot of people could relate in just their life in general too, you know, but like even with us last year, we had like the fire and we had like all that. You're just like, man, I'm fucking over it.
Mm-hmm.
Like at what point does you just get a break?
Yeah.
To where it's like, this shit ain't going to keep happening.
So,
you know, so it's like that feeling of just, I fully get that you would just be sitting there being like,
well,
fuck
and like,
this.
say the level before was here, right? 2017 happens, you're down here. You're like working really hard to even just get here. And then that happens. And now I'm like, fuck, I need so much, I need to build experience again, right? I need to learn. I need to get back in the racing and 4 races in. And, you know, I really needed to do all the races and kind of like, you know, go through the shitty races. Yeah. Maybe I have some good races. Like, where am I at? You know, I'm just trying to find a little sense of normalcy and consistency and just kind of figure out where I'm at. Even though my mindset was like, fuck, like I'm going, you know what I mean? But the reality of it was like, I wasn't going to go out and win. I may have almost, oh no, that may have been later in Oakland or something. I don't even know. The next year. But yeah, so then I'm just like, you really need to do the races. And then that happened. And, you know, I was out for 3 months or 4 months or something. And even when I started riding again, dude, the entire 2018 outdoor season, I came back for outdoors, which was early. Like I'm racing and I'm like, dude, my hand is just not, you know, it's not there. So I started wearing 2 wrist braces because even, you know, going to extension right here, it's still kind of like crunchy in there and whatnot, you know. I just have end range. You know, I needed stability and like have a sense of strength. So the wrist braces actually really do that for me. Like it helped me out a lot.
Do you still wear 2?
Yeah, I still wear 2. Like even if I have a shoot or something and I just like don't put my right one on, fuck, it just hurts after riding. You know, I just think keep bashing the end range and stuff. Like it's just not, and maybe if I do it more often, but why? Like I can't afford really any more damage to my hands. So why take it off? I've gotten so used to it now. It's a pain in the ass sometimes because it takes me forever. Yeah. You know, both sides and I keep adjusting them. Like, but like better that than not riding. Right. So I came back and I constantly, like I had to get ready so early before the races because we're trying to tape. My thumb was actually a big problem. I think this joint down here is like kind of locked. But my thumb was a big time problem. So we were taping my hand up and ended up racing. And it's just like, was always painful, just not ready to do it. And I don't know. Yeah, I was ready, like medically, like it was fine, like go and do it. But I'm like,
but there's a big difference and you were saying like the level of where you're at, but then like everyone else is just getting these building years. And then you got new guys coming into the class and like the sport is going on without you. In it, well, not without you. The sport is going on whether you're healthy.
Well,
or not.
everybody's going forward. I'm doing the opposite right now again, right? Like I'm not even near where I should be or want to be, and like I'm just being knocked down again. And fuck, it's just part of it, I guess. Now, you know, you look back, but at that time, it just was hard. And then coming back from that, like I really had to, you know, I missed more racing. So in the end, it was almost like I didn't race for a year and a half, in a sense, you know. And then that was also the time. I don't think I ever got really. After 2017, I wasn't able to train quite the same anymore. Like,
do you think it was all the surgeries?
I think so. Like my immune system must have taken a hit, and I was still doing a lot of work, like coming back. But like I could tell that something is just a little bit different. Like something was off, you know. But at that point, I didn't really know yet, you know, EBV and you know whatnot. I was just trying to fight through it and trying to make the right decisions of getting my training in and just trying to see where I'm at, you know. But then like 17. Into 18 when I came back, I wasn't in far enough to like really feel any effects of that, right? Because we were only 4 races in or whatever. But then I just had these weird like flare-ups, and I was like, fuck, why do I feel like shit? You know, I'm trying to work, and it's just
healthy,
like nothing.
I'm training.
Nothing was the same anymore, and that was like probably the hardest pill to swallow, honestly, at that point.
Just the sickness and like not knowing what the deal was. It had to feel pretty amazing though when you actually got back to form and got that win. And like it was a crazy battles between you and Coop too. Like to get that first win. I mean, he was just like in form. The tracks were super suited, I think, to his riding style. And it was like a war to get that first win back.
Yeah, it just got taken so many times in the very last second, right? And that's what made that one pretty special. Yeah, and it's crazy how many days there are in between, because I don't know if that's ever happened. You know, you win, and then you don't, whatever, and it's 1,092 days. Is that what it was, or something like that? It's just wild, yeah.
That is crazy.
So, and then honestly, ever since, like, no, again, going back to 2021 and stuff, like I had definitely a few wins and stuff, but you know, after that, the wins have definitely gotten a little bit more few.
But I mean, the sport is just, well, maybe, I mean, you could speak to this better than me, but like the level just seems ridiculous right now.
The level right now, yeah, I agree. It's me and Chase were actually talking about it. It's pretty high right now, and I think actually for the most part, I know some people are getting sick or whatever, but for the most part, I feel like everybody is at 100%. Like everybody's at their peak. I think Eli's at his peak. Chase is too, you know, and I think all the other riders, like everybody had off seasons, long season last year, did all the races, like good base, and everybody's going for it right now. So it's no joke out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I asked you guys in the press conference about like if you can actually feel it on the track, because I feel like there's always 5 or 6 guys, or, you know, 5 guys where it's like they're ripping, and then everyone else is like, and like you were 2 seconds off the pace in A1 qualifying, but then you were second in the main. So it's like even being off the pace is still on the pace. It's like it's a pretty weird dynamic. And man, you look out, like I remember watching first practice at A1 and just being like, are you fucking serious? Like
gnarly.
everyone you looked at, Barsha, Malcolm, Justin Hill, then obviously all the obvious characters. But I'm like, man, this is insane. Like if you can be on the podium in 2025 in Supercross,
that's a good day.
You're a fucking nutcase.
Yeah.
Like you are an absolute lunatic.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, the level is really high right now. I'm super comfortable down, let's call it on the field, on the track right now. You can definitely tell, like in qualifying, they're throwing down heaters, right? And it starts in free practice. I'm like, no, it's free practice. Like I want to jump around a little bit, like do the rhythms, you know, peace. Kind of just enjoy myself. But I think maybe that's also a part where I can maybe take it a little bit to my advantage. You know what I mean? Like I'm not worried about doing a one lapper. Maybe not my strength anymore either. I was never really the one lap kind of guy, but there was definitely times in my career where I was better at it, right? And I was constantly up there. Not anymore, but I have a certain like just calmness inside of me, and I'm trying to figure out the track. And I have just noticed over the years I function better when it actually like really counts. Like I'm just in a different mindset. So I'm trying to just stay relaxed, and I'm pretty comfortable down there. And you know, I'm aware that there will be races where, you know, things might not come as easy, or not as easy, but like you're not gonna feel that hot on the track or whatever. Like everybody has their races throughout the year that, you know, it's not that great. So I'm aware that can come, but hey, for right now, I'm going to focus on every single lap, every single turn that I hit. And I'm just trying to be on par, no mistakes, and be fast, figure out what I need, like kind of just make smart little decisions, but mostly just stay calm.
It's probably a good place to be though.
Yeah, very good.
I feel like
makes racing more fun to me.
Yeah. And I just think there's so much spotlight on other people, but you've got so much love and support from fans and the industry. So like I look at guys like you and Eli right now, and I just think that must be such a cool place to be in the sport. Like you've already done so much. Like if you never raced again, you're fully going down. Like you're a Hall of Fame athlete in the sport when you look at everything that you've done, but you're still super competitive. Yeah. And you still get to race like in this little, I don't know, it's just like this little purple patch of your career where it's like you can still win. Yeah. And you're like fully in a championship hunt, But you could also just never ride again, and everyone's going to be like, that guy's the man.
Yeah, no, it's fun right now also because this stadiums have been sold out. There have been so many people, right? Like, it's pretty sick. So that makes it a lot more fun. And then, of course, just being in the mix. Like, I just want to battle with those guys and be up in the top 5, podiums. Like, as long as I'm there and I'm fighting for it, like, that's what makes racing fun for me. Like, figuring out, like, I know that I have to still be better if I want to, you know, constantly be on the podium and maybe even get a win. You know what I mean? That'd be tight. But and then the fun part is, yeah, just trying to figure out what that is. And I think I am truly enjoying that right now. And I'm aware of that. The level is high, and you're not just gonna, you know, you're not just gonna bash through people left and right, unless you're, of course, Eli or maybe Jet. But I'm working on that to where I want to step my game up as well. But it's comforting that, you know, everybody's at their peak. I think that's what I believe. And then, like, me too, you know, like, I want to be better and stuff, but, like, I'm not I'm not that bad, you know, if everybody's at their peak and if I can figure a little bit out, like, yeah, we're in a good spot. And as long as I'm still competitive, it's almost like, why stop, you know?
Dude, no, 100%. I wanted to ask Eli in the press conference the other night, but they don't give you enough time. But I wanted to genuinely see, like, how would you even know? Because to me, that ride at San Diego looked like the best of, that's like peak Eli Tomac. Like, he beat, I think there's a difference. That night looked like the difference between the win and not the win is Eli could fully send it and Jet couldn't fully send it.
Yeah.
So it was just like one guy had the bike a little bit more figured out for that track. Jet had to hold back. Eli got to hook in. That was the difference in the win. But it's like, how do you even know if you're, like, at your peak? Because I look at that and I'm like, dude, I don't know if he's ever been better.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can see it, the aggression. We know, I think everybody knows how good they have to be at the top level. Like, we know kind of like what we need to feel, what we need from the bike to be able to be there. And honestly, I think you're going to know when you're done. Like, if, like, it's an emotional thing. Like, when you're like, you don't necessarily need to ride until the results start going down, you know? I mean, yes, when you're good and you're winning and you're podium, it's like, why don't you stop or whatever? But, like, I think you're just going to emotionally know when it's time that, you know, like, I've given a lot. It's been a lot of years and takes it out of you for sure.
Yeah.
And honestly, even me, like, there's been plenty of times in my career where I'm like, you know, getting a little tired sometimes. And that was mainly because of, like, the Epstein Bar and stuff. Like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it, you know, like, people don't understand. It really affects me mentally. Like, I get, like, depression when I have these flare-ups. Like, I just don't want to be around people. I don't like being at the races. Like, it's really hard, you know.
What were the worst years of that?
22 for sure. 2019 and 20 is what I'm saying. Like, those are definitely some, but even 2021 when I was really good, I really, like, had a time where, like, I could be feeling amazing and I'm fighting for it and everything's great. And it's like something switches and I on a day-to-day for a few days, like, I don't feel like you can just tell, like, you feel uncomfortable, like, you're hurting. You're just like, man, what's going on? You know, I'm not recovering, but, and then, yeah, mentally, like, then you don't have any, like, it really takes away your confidence. And I noticed big time, it takes away from my creativity, like, massively. And I can even tell that mountain biking, believe it or not, because when I'm, like, good and I feel solid, and I always say if I feel normal, because it's a fatigue thing, you know, for me. It's not a, hey, I did a really hard workout, I'm tired for a couple of days. That's a different, you can push through that, you know what I mean? It's a completely different feeling. Being tired from working too much, whatever, that's a different feeling than, like, the EBV, like, fatigue that you get, the emotional fatigue, the mental fatigue. I get super groggy, like,
yeah, like, cloudy, not
like, everything comes at me super fast, and it's a really annoying feeling. Like, it's really, and I think, and I've talked to people that struggle with the same thing. They say that nobody understands. Like, it's not like a broken arm you can look at, right? And if you struggle with EBV, you know exactly the feeling that you're talking about, this discomfort, this fatigue, this emotional fatigue, like, everything. You just feel pretty lifeless, honestly. At least that's how it hits me, you know? And then everybody that struggles with it, they know exactly what you're talking about. And I think people that don't struggle with it, they're just like, oh, you know, whatever.
How do you think you get it? Like, do you know how you get it? Do you know what it's from?
Well, I definitely had I had a genetic test done where it basically shows you with a positive and a negative, it shows you if you have it from your parents. Like there's a lot of hormones, whatever it is, you can test. And, if it's negative, you don't have any of that from your parents. And if it's plus and negative, that means you have it from one side. Yep. You don't know which one, but if it's plus, then both parents had it and you have it, like whatever that may be, So I have it from one side of my parents, and in general, it's just an immune deficiency. I had salmonella twice when I was really young.
Yeah.
And I believe my mom always said that the doctor said that even digestion wise or absorbing nutrients is going to be tough for me because of I'm not 100% sure what salmonella, but it's like a gnarly stomach thing, right?
Yeah, it's like where you get it from food poisoning, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I was really young, so I'm not sure how that got in there. But yeah, it's like an immune deficiency in a sense, So it stayed dormant, I think, for a long time, and I think just the final straw was not even me training or whatever. It was the injury, medication, anesthesia. I think I was just so in the dumps, and then ever since, it's been a rough road because it's always against my will, if that makes sense. It's never been about my capabilities or do I work out enough or not. It really had nothing.
It's just outside of your control.
It's really outside of my control, and I've gone the conservative route. Had the same thing, it's just like, fuck, I don't know if I could tell you what it is exactly. Stress, like all that play a big role or whatever, but like I know by now how to work some of these areas and to try and not do that, and keep it a lot more steady, but it is always a bit of a question mark. It just is. Yeah.
Fuck, that would be frustrating.
It sucks, man. And I think that's ultimately why I stopped enjoying racing at one point, like everything. And it's been multiple times throughout my career, because when I feel like that, I feel like my candle's burning so low. Like I'm like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. I am so over feeling like that while still having to go out there and perform. And sometimes in the past, like I was able to hide it pretty well because I still do good sometimes, even when I feel like shit. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's just fuck it. And then when it kind of passes and I get in a good groove and things are like what I think back to normal, I'm like, fuck, like I feel strong, I feel fit, like I'm confident, like everything's doing great. But that feeling can be taken away with the snap of a finger. It's fucking wild.
Dude.
I don't know what it is. Like it happens so quickly. You can go from feeling the best you've felt in a long time to the opposite.
And even still now you deal with that.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I have it at bay a lot more than back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so now I'm sometimes taking a conservative route, like in the season right now. Like I have a pretty good grasp on when I want to push myself, when I need to gain a little bit, but definitely think ahead, because once you tip over that training, just a little bit, it's almost like
slippery slope.
It's a very slippery slope. So I'm trying to maintain a good just a good rhythm, I guess.
Does not doing the full outdoors help? Like that'd have to make a huge difference, eh?
Dude, there were years where I was so fucking miserable.
In outdoors.
Like, felt like I had a 30% tank to start the day off, and then it's hot as shit. Like, I've wanted to quit 100 times, dude. I swear to you. Like, I'm like, I can't fucking do this anymore. So, I don't know. I just, not in love with Moto anymore. I don't know what it is. It's not, I have way more fun riding Supercross. And then on top of that, with the schedule that I have right now, it's not like I'm just doing 3 races and then I'm done for the rest of the year, right? It's 17 Supercross, WSX, SMX, and then the occasional Moto. And I always take it like how I feel, you know what I mean? Like maybe one year I'll do a couple of more rounds. Maybe some I won't do any outdoor rounds. But I don't know, even practicing right now or just riding Moto for fun, it's not, I don't know. I love going on a Supercross track though.
Dude, so do that.
Which is gnarly though, because like Supercross is gnarly, we saw JB like a bunch of and Chad like racing until they're older, but like in general, I feel like dude, riding a Supercross track is no joke. It's peaky, big jumps, you got whoops, it gets rough. Like there's definitely more room for error when it comes to Moto than Supercross.
You think that's more dangerous riding Supercross than Moto?
I just think you have to be on it a lot more. Like I said, you can over jump a tabletop, come up short, or bank the outside. And, there's a reason why as a hobby. Nobody as a hobby goes and rides a Supercross track. Like,
so
you know what I mean? So Moto, you can kind of just mess around and come up short, over jump or whatever. But in Supercross, like if you want to ride it properly, unless you want to roll everything, but where's the fun in that, you know?
How much like fitness does it take at your level to ride Supercross? Because I feel like when you're like watching a dude like you that just has so much flow and like you're just a real talented motherfucker when it comes to riding Supercross. So like, is there a crazy level of talent, so fitness that it takes, or you can, if you're feeling good and you're flowing, you can just do 20 minutes on a Supercross track, or is it so different when you're racing?
Well, my base is so good over the years that like I can get back to 20s pretty quickly. But in general, to be at the top level, you got to think like you do a start or like go on the assault bike. You know how freaking hard it is, right? So then like. Yeah. You know, you can be comfortable at your 80% or whatever, get in a good rhythm. But like, if you want to be good, you got to crank those watts. And the only way to get there is to go max effort. And then there's really no limit on how fast or how strong, how long you can go, right? So like the level right now with how fast we're going and how much intensity and how much you push, you're ripping on those handlebars like every single inch on the track. So Moto is definitely different. You know, got 2 motos. You got to get seat time in. You got to do your motos. It's hot and whatever. But no matter what, like even in Supercross, like you got to be freaking fit if you want to go wide open for 20 minutes.
So yeah, there's no just like getting in the flow and it's a lot
You
easier.
can, but then you'll find yourself not anywhere near the podium.
14th.
I can tell you that much. Yeah, 14th now. Yeah. You're not going to be anywhere near the podium. I can tell you that much.
What was some of the funnest years of your career, do you think, so far?
Definitely, I would say, so 2009, 2010, and 11 in the GPs, right? Like that, those are just standout years to me because I just came up as a kid, started riding for a factory team.
Carefree. And living.
And then also the bikes were just so sick. Like the 2009 bike was still the carburetor Suzuki. That was the sickest bike. Like we got protested by KTM because of where we're underweight. Like that thing had carbon, titanium, everything. Like full carbon subframe, full carbon tank, titanium everywhere. They were just so well developed and skinny bike and light as fuck, fast, you know.
And you were tiny.
And I was tiny on top of it. So, you know, you get to ride those bikes. And
what was the name of the team?
It was Tekka Europe Suzuki.
Yeah, Tekka, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, go Tekka.
T-E-K-A.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Tekka Suzuki.
T-E-K-A. Yeah.
Yeah, those bikes were so sick.
Yeah, and they were, bro. Yeah, and then the fuel injector came out, and that thing was pretty slow in the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, really slow.
So the carby just was the move for them.
Yep. That was 2010 right there. That's 2009.
Bro. Scroll.
Probably hard pack and dusty, but we got roll-offs on, guys.
What was the deal,
I don't know.
Go, scroll down.
2010.
Go to that one there with Ken. No, left there.
Yeah. That was.
Have a look at you, bro. You are like literally a baby, dude. Oh, KYB suspension.
Dude, I probably didn't even have pubes yet.
Probably not, bro.
No.
You were fucking
I remember thinking about that when I started racing GPs. I'm like, dude, I don't even have pubes yet, man.
Look at that one right there. Just a fucking baby, bro. And going.
That was that I believe was either 7 or 8. I was 7 or 8. Probably 2008.
That is crazy. And you used to wear like the full body armor.
My dad made me.
Like the
full
whole
elbows, the whole 9.
Yeah. Like a full vet rider. Imagine how small you would have looked if you didn't wear all that shit. Oh
man, those are good times. But yeah, once I started getting a little bit older, then I was able to. Actually, no. In the beginning, even 2011 and 12, I still had the full body armor on.
That's so kooky,
dude. I could have been in A Knight's Tale for the movie.
Were you jousting or doing moto, bro? What sticks out from that time though? Like battles wise,
so,
like it was Marv. No, was it Marv?
Yes. So I should have won the championship in 2010, but I had 3 bike failures. 2 were electrical. One time my chain derailed, and they were all me either leading or being in second. So 2010, I should have probably.
Who won that one, Marv?
Marv. I think that was the time. 2010, what is it, 09 when he switched from Honda to, I think that was 2009. He switched from Honda to KTM mid-season.
Yeah.
And
Caused a whole lot of kerfuffle.
Yep. And then, 2010, I was battling with him like big time. And then actually during that was when Colorado Destinations was. And by that time, or for the last 3 rounds, I think I got some motors from Roger. And we changed my gearing on it, and that made the bike way better. So then, I think I went like 1-1, 1-1, 1-1 the last like GPs. Yeah, some bike changes for sure. Got a motor from Roger, I think, and yeah, off we went.
What do you remember from battling Herlings in those?
So he came in probably 2010, I'm guessing, maybe 11. I'm not 100% sure because 11 was my last year GP, and I was on KTM's. Yeah, that was 10. Yeah. So we're like same age. He's a few months younger, I believe. But yeah, just crazy battles, right? And we talk on Instagram like pretty regularly, you know.
He's actually a pretty cool dude.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think he's changed a lot throughout the years too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot more easy to talk to, and it's fun to exchange, whether it's memories or knowledge or whatever.
Well, he's just a super fan.
He is
guaranteed he listens to this. He is a super fan of Moto.
Yeah, and so back in the day when we were racing each other, we were crazy competitors, but honestly, most of the hype was the people around us that made it, like the kind of like rivalry.
Yeah.
I never really talked to him, but then that automatically turns into like I'm gonna freaking annihilate him, you know, on the weekends. You know what I mean? Anyways, they're just such different times. We were just such shitheads back in the day. You know, we were both so young and like, we just wanted to like, you know, annihilate everybody and stuff. So it's just good times. Like we had good battles for sure.
Oh man, and like
probably not enough though because then I left and it just all kind of split.
Yeah, but I think there was so much hype around how young you were and how good you were. Like, that was a crazy time. I mean, I wonder who's come in that young and just done that well since, you know, like it probably hasn't.
The only guy I could probably think of is Jet, maybe not GPs, but then he came over, you know, and he raced the 250 class. He was pretty young as well, right? Maybe not though. That's the thing though, because I started racing GPs when I was 15, but I was in that environment at 14 because I had to get ready for the season. And that was actually another part that was really cool because we would go down to Portugal or Spain for a training camp, and I was always teamed up. So it was in 2010. It was Tonas Arnaud, one of my great friends, still to this point. He was my teammate, and it was Clément de Salle and Ramon.
Yeah,
and I was always paired up with Steve, and it was cool because he was kind of like a JB. You know what I mean? Like just mellow guy, kind of shy. You know what I mean? But
super
crazy
solid,
work ethic,
super stoic.
Yeah, so we were always partnered up, and I was a kid, and then I was around some big names, you know, like that's cool as shit, you know, and we get to train and hang out and cycle. Like it was just the start of a crazy era, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So
and then
just
cool. Were you the youngest to win?
I think so, yeah. So, I don't know if it's the youngest ever or youngest German, but I'm pretty sure I'm right in the ballpark, maybe the youngest ever, but I was 15 in 53 days, and it was in Germany. I don't think I won a moto. I think I went 2-2 for first overall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. But the fans just had to be great. Like, that's one thing in Europe, and going to your country, like Jorge winning in Spain for the, you know, to win the title, and then you winning in Germany for your first GP.
Well, and if you think about it, before I started racing GPs, there was always just 1 or 2 guys from Germany, right? And then, of course, Max.
Yeah.
So he was always like the best guy and just like the support, you know, like your country cheers for like one guy in these races, you know what I mean? And then I was part of that, you know, in the 250 class. So, but I was just like one of the couple of Germans that race GPs and are actually able to win races and be on the podium.
What was the scene like in Germany when you were a kid? Like, I remember you telling me that you were racing 450s and shit when you were like 13.
Yeah. There's a video on YouTube, but I think my bike broke actually. It was at a sand track, Lookout. And I was racing a 450 and I was like, 12, maybe 11, like, I don't know, somewhere around there, 12. And we just borrowed a bike because mine broke. Yeah, that one right there.
Oh my God. Dude, this is unreal. Fox, Red Bull, Oakley, all the same sponsors.
So yeah, that was my...
Oh my God, bro.
The thing's just fishtailing all over because I have no weight. Like, there's no weight on the rear at all.
That dude must just be like, what the fuck is going on?
The muffler on that thing's bigger than me.
The muffler would weigh more than you weigh.
Yeah.
Bro, that is crazy. Heiko's such a savage.
Rah, the thing sounds like a freaking Harley.
Dude.
I did end up colliding with somebody and going down, but
That's loose, bro. And so this was what, right? Like, this was what German tracks were like back in the day.
yeah, like this was a sand track. There's definitely, so up north is usually where all the sand tracks are. See the head shake right there?
You would beat me at my best right here. Like, the best I've ever rode in my life, you would have smoked me as a 13-year-old on a 450.
Yeah, I was just, dude, I was able to, I had a track in my backyard, but I was able to ride so many different bikes. Like, I remember being that age too, and I would ride my, so Daniel Siegel, he was always the one, he raced Destinations as well, but he's like family to me. He lived, that's where I crashed with somebody. My dad. But yeah, he he lived like 5 minutes away from my house, but I totally forgot what I wanted to say right now.
Riding bikes. Different bikes.
Oh yeah, no, I was riding his two. Yeah, so he was always racing the Supercross in Germany, Dortmund and Stuttgart, Chemnitz back in the day, and that was a big deal because I was still a kid and I'd go to these races and it was a massive deal, And he was one of the Germans, and he was always for the longest time he was true to the 252 stroke, and I remember riding his bike. That thing just sounded so crispy, but I mean, I was freaking 10 years old or something, and it's just like, so I was always able to ride like different kinds of bikes, and I always switched to the bigger bike like pretty early. So yeah, it was cool. Like the bottom right there where it says winning race on 250 H13. So that was German championship, and
it's wild that they let you ride at a German championship at that age.
I don't know what the rules were back in the day, but right here, I think I got second in this moto or something like that. But it was a big deal because this is German championship, but it's a German international championship. So you had French, like you always had big people, and actually, in between some of the GPs, like Desal, Ramon, Everts, like they would come show up to these races and race, So it was a big deal. This is
that's a sick track, dude.
250 international, German international championship.
And you got second.
Yeah, I got second right here. You can see after, like, if you were to go all the way to the end, like after the finish, whatever, I come in, I take my goggles off. I look like I'm 8 years old. And it's funny about this is that my dad always put the 450 fender on the rear. You see how it has the grooves? So he put the 450 fender on my 250. But yeah, wait till I get my goggle off. I was so tiny.
Dude, your dad's so stoked. That is so rad, bro. And you probably still had that same chain when you moved here.
Yeah, for forever. I remember sometimes I'd crash and it'd rip right off. Yeah, I wore that chain since I was...
Forever, bro.
Yeah.
How did the Fox deal first come about? Because you haven't changed sponsors.
No, it's been wild. I've been with Red Bull since I was 12 or 13, and same with Fox. Same year, I think.
Oakley too. Oh, do you run Fox now on the goggles?
Yeah, I've been Fox for forever. I was Oakley in 14, 15, 16, and 17. 16 and 17.
And then switched to Fox on the
switch
goggles.
back to Fox. Fox likes their stuff head to toe.
Yeah,
and obviously,
yeah.
I've been with them for so long, so it's a pretty big value to them.
Yeah. So how did that deal first come about?
Dude, I don't know. I was so young, but obviously I was with Bert as my manager, which he was the Suzuki Europe guy. And it started with just Fox Germany, honestly. Yeah, I was starting to get gear. And Red Bull, I don't really remember how the approach all started and whatnot, because I was obviously very young, right? Like before I knew what was going on. So I just, but then never stopped.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, honestly. Like you don't see that too often anymore, that one guy sticks with a gear company and or energy drink company for that long. So I value that a lot, and that's always been my my moves too in the past couple of years. Like on teams where I go, I'm not just gonna go do something where a relationship of 20 years or whatever would just fizzle out.
Yeah, that's literally what I was thinking when you were saying that. Like even the moves that you've made from teams and sponsors, and like you've always just aligned yourself to maintain those sponsors.
Yes, always try and find ways to keep relationships like that alive, for sure.
Yeah. Has that been hard though at times?
Yeah, I mean it is, because you limit yourself to, at one point, I mean in the end, like even right now, there's really only Red Bull KTM, right?
Yeah.
that has an actual like Red Bull Energy sponsor. Everybody else is Monster, and luckily with HEP, like where I'm at right now, I had the freedom to keep Red Bull, and that was really important to me.
Yeah, that would have been like pretty much a non-negotiable, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta see that I get a job too, so, but it's like last resort in a sense, like there's just really want to stick with the companies that I've been with for a long time.
Yeah. What's the coolest project you've done with Red Bull over the years, you reckon?
Well, one thing that sticks out to me for sure is Terra Firma 94. That was pretty cool up at Zaka.
That was sick, eh?
That was cool. But then we actually had a really cool thing in 2007, and it was called Ride with Roczen. And we had that at our track. Ours is a public track, right? And we had the Suzuki rig come out, and we did this whole like Red Bull thing it's kind of like a training camp type thing.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of people come out. And actually the funny part is, so one of my friends, Fabio Wittmer, you probably know him.
Yeah.
Crazy on bicycles, right? Like he still rides Moto, but he was riding Moto back then. And he was one of the kids that like signed up or got picked to come and do the Ride with Roczen at my track and like just be coached and have fun, food. And so, he told me that a long time ago now, but he was part of that. And it's just crazy. Like years and years and years later, he's so gnarly at what he does, and
he's one of the coolest dudes in like action sports almost, I had Danny McCaskill on here the other day. And we were just talking about like Fabio and what he's done. Fuck, it's crazy what he's built. Bro.
Danny was probably the first one that I have watched do like crazy like street stuff, right? On a bicycle, on a trials bike and stuff. So and now just the level where it has gone is just mental. It really is.
Man, how's the run that McCaskill went on with videos? So like he was taking us through, he's like, this was the first one we did, 40 million views. This was the second one I did, 48 million views. This was the first Red Bull video, 90 million views. It's like, bro.
How?
He just fully nailed the internet.
Yeah.
Just figured out the internet and just fucking absolutely crushed it.
Yeah. It's nuts. No, it is so fun to watch. Like, it's hard when you're bored not to go on YouTube and just find like stuff. And we love bicycles, right? Like whether it's mountain bike, BMX, whatever it is, any, sports like that. But now like, with the street stuff, it's like, again, it's almost limitless of what you can do, So these dudes have just been gone. There's a bunch of them now that do cool shit, right? So just wild the level that they have taken it to.
What other shit are you into away from Moto these days?
Well, surfing is definitely my biggest passion after dirt bikes.
Are you surfing much in Florida?
I have a beach house up in Florida. There's usually always some surf. It's not quite as consistent as here in Southern California, but there's definitely some fun surf. And the cool part about it is that when I paddle out, like I'll paddle out with a couple of friends or whatever, but for the most part, it's usually just me. So your wave count just goes up like crazy. I just step off my porch and I'm in the sand. So in the summertime, like, the water is like 80-something degrees or whatever, is super tropical. You don't have to mess around with a wetsuit. You go in, you surf 3 times throughout the day, It's awesome. And you stay fit.
Have you done any surf trips yet?
So after 2016, after my title, everybody had their girlfriends and wives around. So Mikey and then Frankie D, Beeks. And so we all went down as like a championship party to Los Gaviotos, which is just past Tijuana. It's like maybe an hour and a half or so past the border. Yeah. And we rented the sick house just right on the point where we would just jump off the cliff into the water and would go surf. And we just had the absolute best time, This was obviously prior to kids, so we could just,
they're just living.
Literally, like we went to the sick winery with crazy food. And then at night, we went night surfing with stuffing beers in the wetsuit. You know what I mean? Oscar was with us.
Oh, no way.
Stuffing beer in the wetsuit. We'd be on this like rubber boat, like paddling out while we were surfing, and the moon was out. And the funny part was, so we got out of the water and we had to go out like kind of down the cliff. It was a little bit of a hike back. And there was a wedding going on. It was this gated community, but there was a wedding going on in like the clubhouse. And we were all like just feeling good, like having a great time. So we're all in wetsuits, just dripping water. We go in there and I start the Bolognese, and you shoulder and you start going through the room and with the bride and everything. It was so funny because the dance floor was flooded. You know what I mean? I don't remember. I think the dudes were not so happy, but we left later on, you know what I mean? But we had to go in there and just have some fun a little bit. So it was just times like that are just so memorable. We still have some photos laying around. It's awesome.
Dude, that's so good. Have you got better? It's like a lot better at surfing?
Yeah, no, lately for sure. I just obviously with surfing, it's always a challenge. It's really challenging, especially when the waves are big, like positioning yourself, reading the wave and whatnot. So that's like the hardest part. It's not as simple, like for people that don't surf, that just to go paddle out, like
Paddle, stand
turn
up.
and go and stand up. So there's a lot more to it. And there's just times where I surf a lot, consecutively or days and just like, let's call it a couple or a few months throughout where I'm just like constantly surfing, whether I go up there, surf for the weekend, go back. So if I surf more often, yeah, I get super comfortable in the water and there's always stuff to learn, especially when the waves are big.
Yeah.
But yeah, over the last few years, I was able to surf a couple of wave pools as well.
That shit helps, eh?
Yeah, just because repetition, right? You get kind of like the same thing. It is a little weird at first because the waves most of the time come out of nowhere.
Yeah. What wave pools have you surfed?
I've gone to Urban Surf a couple of times with WSX.
Yeah.
So that's really cool in Melbourne, which was super fun. But honestly, we always did interviews. So by the time we had some private sessions, but then by the time we were done with it, like the session was almost always over where I'm like, I kind of just want to rent it one time for like an hour and just like surf. You know what I mean?
There's one at Palm Springs now, eh?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you been out to that?
No, I have not been lately. I mean, there's a bunch being built all around now, even in Florida.
Yeah.
I went to, we were for the residency in Arlington and me and Mike Emery, we went out. Like I sucked. Like I struggled the first couple of races and whatnot, and it was freezing cold in Texas, but we were going to go down to Magnolia, which is in Waco, and we ended up...
I did that one recently.
Yeah, so we ended up between... When were we racing? I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, on a Thursday or something, because I sucked anyways. I'm like, man, I need to, let's go surf. So we ended up
the
going...
dirt bike thing ain't working
out.
ain't
working out. We got to go surf, and sure enough, my best day out of all three of those days was the day after surfing.
No shit.
Yeah, there you go. But it was cold as shit. Fun. But that was the first one we've ever, I was about to say raced on, but the first wave pool that I've kind of explored. It's pretty fun.
Did you surf the one in Abu Dhabi when you were there for WSX?
No, and that's actually the one that's kind of like Kelly's, right? Or it is.
I think it is a Kelly pool.
Yeah, I think Griffin Colapinto and those guys, they were all there during that time, but no, I didn't get to go, no.
Yeah, that one looks legit. Have you ever surfed Kelly's?
No, I had the opportunity multiple times to go, but... Like Scheckler and a bunch of people went at one point, but I literally just got back from Europe and they were leaving that day. So like the timing has never added up to where I can go. But I will for sure make that happen at some point.
Is that what you think when you do retire, you're just going to like fully be a surf dude?
Yeah, I'm going to be a surf bum. Yeah, I love it. I just like being in the water or being on the beach, tropical, and the kids there and just like, I don't know. I like the tropical side of things, so
What's the dream surf spots?
Well, when I lived in San Clemente, like Uppers, Trestles was always the spot that I went to. Cottons as well. Like I don't know how it is now. Like all the sand has changed. Like I haven't been there in a couple of years, so I don't really know what it is like now. But Cottons can be pretty fun, especially if it has some size to it. But Uppers is usually middles, Trestles here. Those are the ones that I probably surfed at the most. And then, I would say around here, and that's kind of like where I started around here, Southern California. It is a lot harder to get your wave count up just because sometimes the waters can get busy, you know what I mean? And
so many people.
And like surfing's pretty intimidating, right? Like when you are trying to learn, it's just most of the people that live here, they've done it their whole life, but it's like with anything, you just get more comfortable with it. And then, I'm just talking about like the beginning stages before you know where to paddle to and like what to do, like proper surf,
what's
like water
going
etiquette.
Left, what's going right.
Exactly. You don't want to be getting into people and whatnot. So it's definitely a learning curve. But once you get comfortable with that, like there's nothing better to me than sitting or standing on a surfboard, the sun's out, and catch a wave.
What about where would you want to go when you actually retire and do trips? Like, have you got any like dream destinations?
Yeah, there's definitely some spots in Australia that I want to go hit up because Julian Wilson, like a big moto head, right? Like I want to
huge Ken Roczen fan.
Yeah. Like we go way back, honestly. Like
really?
Years
When's
and years
the first
back.
time you guys met?
2016, maybe even before that, but maybe around 2016 or something. Yeah, I surfed down in San Diego with him, and then I knew his brother Bart, like he used to work with Court and whatnot. So like just through that, and he's a big moto head. So over the years, just loves moto. I've surfed with him before, and we just always kept in touch with each other. So there's definitely a few spots, and even going down to Mexico, like I want to invest some more time and just focus on like, hey, I want to actually get better. Like let's go to some cool places, like because there's a lot of stuff we have to say no to throughout the years because of racing, right? Which is fine. Like that's what we do.
Yeah,
You know,
it's part of
you
it.
got to create your baseline in life first before you go and have all the fun. So there's a lot of time down the road for it, but yeah, that's what I look forward to the most.
I want to go on a boat trip so bad.
On a boat trip, yeah.
Dude, just live on a boat for like 10 days, be in like Bali or just somewhere and just really, I feel like that's when you would get the best at surfing.
Yeah.
Just like some pumping reef breaks.
Especially if you go to places where it's not busy, like you can only get
Just
to
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a friend of mine, he used to live with me and I don't know what the deal is, but there's some like fucking gnarly, I think he's like some Russian dude's like gnarly millionaire guy. And he's just basically employed him as his surf coach.
Really? That's funny.
And all this dude does is rent boats
Boats
and
go.
just goes and surfs. And he's like a really good photographer as well. So he's just like taking photos and coaching this rich
That's sick.
motherfucker at surfing. And yeah, he's just fully living, bro.
That's awesome.
But I feel like the boat trip's like the one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many ways to go about it, you know, whether you go by car, rent a sick house on a point, like what we did in Mexico. Like to me, it's always also the crew that you're with, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't really care where we go as long as we have good company and have fun. Like I love cooking and like making dinner. Like that's what it's about too, right? That's what we did down in Mexico, just making food, bonfires. Like it's just, dude, that's living right there.
Yeah. So what, speaking of food, what's the diet at the moment?
I mean, I definitely base myself around like animal based, you know. I was super gnarly with it, and that's probably when I felt the absolute best.
When you were just straight carnivore?
Yeah, it wasn't carnivore, it was animal based, meaning carnivore is really just meat and
yeah.
butter, you know. I went through a lot of fruit, but I eat sweet potato, obviously, and then I add rice right now, you know, just to get proper carbs and whatnot. But I have a lot of honey, yogurt. It's definitely easier when I'm at home to stick to it. But also, like, I'm not like crazy strict because we do have kids and we like to go and get some ice cream and, you know, get pizza and whatnot. Like, but I always base myself around being animal based, and just when you travel a lot, it's definitely quite a bit harder, right? But yeah, I'm kind of just like winging it.
Yeah, I feel like looking on Instagram, I really like the Roczen diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been back on the raw liver last week. I'm not home right now,
Raw
so
liver.
I can't. Yeah, it's disgusting, but
But you think it's good?
yeah, like I think in general, like if you listen to a bunch of podcasts and you know, the simplicity on not eating super processed foods, like it's technically common sense, right? Like I
Yeah.
just want to eat the purest, and it's, you know, back in the day, the nose to tail eating with organs, and obviously liver is one of the most disgusting ones, but you kind of take it like a supplement. Like it's really not that big of a deal, but like I had a lot of bone marrow at one point. I eat a lot of red meat
Yeah.
and fruit, you know, sweet potato, honey, milk. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. And honestly, when I was really strict with it, that's when I felt the best, physically and mentally.
Yeah, yeah. No, it makes so much sense, man. I feel like it's so hard comparing to Australia, I feel like it's so much harder to eat good here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to really source.
You have to dig a little bit, right? Like
Yeah,
same in Florida, like we can find butchers and stuff, but in California, I couldn't even imagine. It's probably so hard and expensive to find some grass-fed proper beef, you know, and
Yeah. Yeah, I think Sprouts is your friend here.
Yeah,
Like
I like Sprouts.
Yeah, Sprouts. And then, I mean, Trader Joe's not so much for produce, but
yeah,
like,
I like Sprouts.
yeah, I feel like that's probably the one that's like the best. But yeah, you're spending fucking hundreds
While
of
you're at
dollars.
Sprouts, get yourself some HUME SuperNatural deodorant.
Oh, you're an investor in that, eh?
Yeah, no, cool company. I like their product.
Pull that up. What's the website?
It's got to be HUMESuperNatural.com. HUME, yeah, HUME.
Yeah. How long have you been working with this?
Fairly recently, like within the last year.
Yeah, I've actually got some of their stuff.
Yeah, even before I invested in it, like it was a very like standout logo. Like it caught my eye always.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of crazy how much like optic makes, like, you know, something looks kind of like high end and classy. You look at it, right? Like it makes a big difference. But yeah, very outdoorsy. Bunch of surf people, some athletes and whatnot that like the company, and I'm actually doing some filming with them tomorrow. We're gonna go to the test track and stuff, and gonna go surf after with Frankie D as well. So yeah, it should be a good time.
Yeah, that's sick. Can you see yourself doing much like business stuff after racing?
Well, I'm doing a lot right now, especially with real estate and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because you and Court were like flipping houses for a bit there, right?
Yeah, Court was. Yeah, that was her deal. But then with Steve, obviously I have a lot of guidance with him too. Like he's one of the best ones to be represented by. He's just got so much experience and so much knowledge and stuff. So I always latch on. And there's times where I can do it more, depending on the time of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I'm retired, like I don't know what I want to stay an athlete. Like I feel like that's my thing. Like whether that's going the mountain bike route or something along those lines, like doing some competition and stuff. So I don't know what I'll do on the business side of things when I'm retired. See what kind of doors open.
What kind of mountain biking would you do?
Probably enduro, and obviously World Cup always is cool to watch. But like I need to get some seat time first. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying I'm just gonna show up and go to the World Cup and whatnot, but there's a lot to be learned and whatnot. But I think it does cross over from dirt bikes to, you can see a lot of the downhill guys ride Moto too. So it's just kind of a natural crossover. So it'd be just cool to invest more time into it. But I also just like jumping my bike and messing around and riding through the streets and jumping stairs and kind of like what we did today. Like I just like going down good trails and having some flowy jumps and stuff like that.
We were talking about it like a couple of days ago, being like, do you think a top level Moto dude could do a World Cup? You reckon?
So. Mm-hmm.
How long do you reckon it'd take you to train for one and get?
Well, the first part is I've never even really ridden a full downhill bike. There's definitely, I need to go to some good spots and plan some trips for sure. But no, I
don't doubt it.
Like, yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from the downhill guys. I'm not just saying like we can go win. Yeah, but like I think going from moto to mountain bike is probably maybe a little easier than the other way around,
for
right?
Sure. Way less variables.
Yeah, and it just depends on where you're at with your capabilities. Like I love riding mountain bikes and doing, riding some sick trails and enduro and some steep stuff and techie stuff, So I think if you kind of have a love for that, or if you like that, then it'll come easier to you for learning to, because in the end it's seat time, and if you want to figure it out, you'll find a way.
Yeah, so you could see yourself actually trying to do that.
I think so. Yeah,
I would love to see someone try and do that.
Yeah.
You've already have a bike sponsor.
Yeah, no, that's right. I'm locked in with that.
You could just roll. We
got the energy drink. I got Fox. Like I got everything lined up right now to actually go that route.
Just like straight up.
No, but I don't know. Like it'd be something fun, and if that even goes down that route, I don't know. But I would love to invest more time and go to bike parks and, like really get after it.
I said,
honestly though, I haven't snowboarded in forever. We were talking about earlier what I would like to do besides riding, and I used to always go on winter vacations with friends and we go snowboarding and stuff. It's just been a long time. It's probably been about 10 years since I've gone. But I love snowboarding, and I'm definitely going to go on some winter trips.
Where was the best place you'd been?
Most of the time was just when I was still in Europe. Like we'd go to Austria, like they're just massive mountains, and it's not comparable. Like I've only really been to Big Bear and Mammoth here, but it's just not comparable to that.
I know. It's just like a completely different animal, like just massive.
And you can go from resort to resort. Like so many mountains are connected that you literally never ride the same slope,
How much time you reckon you'll spend in Europe? Like, are you pretty established here?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You don't think you'll ever move back to
Europe? No. I would never. I mean, I miss my friends, my food. Like, I'll make frequent trips and whatnot, but they might mess with me for saying that, but I feel more American than I do anything else, to be honest.
That's
crazy. I just had my entire adult life here, Like, I came over, I was really young. I had my first, like, actual house that I bought. I got my driver's license here, and just, like, the entire between 17 to 20 some, I never even really went back, so I don't feel one bit. It almost feels foreign going there a little bit, not gonna lie.
Is it hard to speak German still?
It's a little bit easier now just because I speak it more often. I stopped talking German with Griff, actually. In the very beginning, I wanted to, and I always did. But then, like, you're a first-time dad, and then they start because we didn't have, it was COVID too, so we had nobody around that spoke German. And me and Court speak English, I'm always around speaking English. And then once he actually understood a few things and he could kind of start to communicate, which was super cool, then I just I wanted to communicate with him, we're doing this for the first time. And once he was able to kind of talk, I'm just we're probably never really going to spend that much time in Germany. Of course, it'd be sweet if he could speak German. He definitely shows interest at time. And he knows a bunch of it, and I think if I just refresh his mind on some of the colors and stuff, maybe down the road it'll be a little bit easier. It'd probably be almost easier now.
Maybe, because he just has a bit more grasp of what language, what language is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually, when I say it in German and then translate it in English, and he actually knows, that's what that is. You know what I mean? He can actually associate the word with something.
That's so interesting because I definitely want our kids to speak Russian. Just because I think it's that's the most useless fucking language in the world.
Dude, I had to take it in school.
Did you?
Fuck, yeah.
No
So
way,
I wanted,
bro.
I did English, French, Russian. Russian was mandatory at one point.
No shit.
Where do you?
That's
And then we
crazy.
wanted to, I think maybe 8th grade or 7th grade. It was about, you could kind of pick for one, for an hour, you could pick whatever language or whatever you wanted to do, right? And I wanted to do French because I'm might as well do French. I'm around France and whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do Russian by any means because I'm never going to use it. But then we weren't enough kids to actually
make the French class.
Make the class. So then we all ended up doing Russian.
No shit. Yeah, useless language.
Yeah, nothing stuck too.
Where you grew up, was that East or West Germany?
East.
Yeah, that's probably why.
That's why we're proud East Germany.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you
More
remember
the old
any
school.
of that shit?
No, that was before my time.
It was before, but I feel like there's a hangover that happens in those countries.
Dude, we might be going back to East and West Germany here.
Really?
I don't know. I just know that the economy and politics are all so backwards over there. It's not the same anymore than when I was there, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Even just East and West Germany is wild. How it was literally just half the country, half was American influence, half was a Russian influence.
Yeah.
But that's probably why growing up in East Germany, they still had that. But even my wife's mum, she grew up in the Soviet Union, and she's just her mentality and the way of thinking is just so old school Soviet Union.
And that's honestly how East Germany is. It was definitely the more old school way, right? We still, it's just back to my roots. That's why I always feel comfortable when I'm there because everything is still a little bit more normal, if that makes sense. And just a little bit more old school and just roots, more rooted.
Yeah.
To, that's why we always rode the old bikes back in the day too, right? The Simpson. You remember those videos back in the day that we did?
Oh, and you're on the
blue one, the two-stroke bike and stuff. So
yeah.
we always had a group, Turbine Kamong, that we always had a group of friends that we went, we all had our old motorcycles and everything, and just we were still how our dads were back in the day, So
that's so cool, eh? It's funny when you say you feel more American though. Even I think about when I moved here, I was 2010, so I would have been 22. And when I think about it now, I went back to Australia for 5 years, basically. So that's since I was 22, I'd spent 5 years in Australia. And it's man, most of my adult life as well. It's a weird, because you still feel Australian and you still feel that's where your friends are, your closest friends. But I almost feel more comfortable
here
being here, and I feel there's more of a future here.
Yeah,
it's a very weird thing, and
you have your business, you have everything set up here now. It's just I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
It's not you're not proud of where you come from.
No, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, you're not that you don't love it, but it's just a strange association. And when you think about it, you're well, I've been here most of my life.
Yeah. No, it's and then I just I'm the most comfortable here, and there was definitely a time where it was worse because there were a few years where I didn't go back at all, and the first time I went back, it felt similar, but it was so different. And in the U.S., everything is a lot more widespread. So then we had a McDonald's right up the street from my house, basically, and I remembered it being kind of far, and it's dude, I can almost throw a rock. Everything just feels a lot closer than what you actually think it is. When I go to my friend's house, it's like right there, you know, but in my head, I'm like, man, I used to think it was farther, but maybe it's just being here for so long and everywhere you go to is a 30-minute drive and whatnot.
I was just saying the exact same thing the other day. I remember we grew up out of town, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And like as a kid, I used to want to pack a fucking sandwich.
Yeah.
to drive 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Just changes. So I asked this to Eli. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of motocross?
Jeremy McGrath. I always looked up to Ricky Carmichael. Like that was the first guy when I came for Minios. I actually went to his farm without knowing it. It was a surprise. And then somebody was ripping the Supercross track, like rap, rap, you know, and there's a big number 4. And I'm like, my mom was right there. And I'm like, is that? You know, it was a surprise. And we had some footage somewhere where I was talking to him and whatnot. It's just crazy. And then years later, I ended up becoming friends with him, racing for him, you know. Same with MC, you know. Like I have a photo actually. We were in Leipzig Supercross, and it was a shitty photo because my face was half cut off, but I was maybe 6 or something like that back then. And it's just wild how life turns out to be down the road. So who do we got now? We
Jeremy?
had,
Ricky.
MC, and then definitely Stu, just unique, you know, not on the championship side of things, but just like how much of an impact he had in the sport, right? It was very new school racing.
Do you remember the first time that you saw him ride? Like, do you remember watching videos?
Like
and
live?
stuff?
Oh, no, videos? Yeah, that's when he was still on 125, and he was doing... And I was big time. Even when I was younger, the U.S. was always that I had my eyes on. I loved bar to bar back in the day, and I also loved all the free
That was
riding,
my
like
Bible, bro.
Krusty, Demons of Dirt, and everything.
Yeah.
Like, I watched Moto Triple X. Like, they had a big influence on my life, right? So I gravitated towards the U.S. always, you know? So that was the third one, right? And then fourth, and it's a tough one because there's just quite a few of the top guns. I'm gonna put Roger DeCoster up there just because of how big of a deal he was back in the day and how much of maybe even a privilege it was to race for him. And like, that's where I always wanted to be. And I had that in with Suzuki and factory Suzuki. So like, it was like, just this crazy respect, and like it's Roger DeCoster, and still to this point. So I'm gonna put him up there just because of just the influence and with my upbringing and how badly I wanted to race for him.
That's sick. That's a good Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, and those are going off of my personal feelings and personal feelings that I have with the racers with the guys. Yeah,
that's how I want it to be.
Yeah,
I want to know who you're. Like, because everyone's influenced so differently
totally.
by the people. And
and so my cousin back in the day and my sister used to race quads and stuff. Like, I don't know, McGrath was like such a big deal, right? So that's the reason I said that. And Leipzig was the first time I met him. Like, there was just a backstory behind it, and that's the reason why I put Jeremy up there. And same with Ricky. Like, it was Ricky. Like, I looked up to him, and then I got surprised by going to his farm and got to see that, you know, and yeah.
How was he like to ride for?
Well, to be quite honest, especially 2015, he wasn't much involved, even though it was said that, how is it for racing for Ricky and whatnot, but he wasn't really involved very much, to be honest. And it was quite, I didn't need a big crew.
Yeah.
In 2016 was obviously when I had my biggest success with RCH. And in general, it was, Oscar was probably the biggest influence on bike setup and what we were wanting to do, because I was still at this point like pretty green behind my ears when it comes to setups. And after that is when I really started digging, like when we changed something, like what was it, so I can match the feeling that I have. So in case we go in a racing environment, we want to make a change. In my head, I want to already lay out what that potentially does, because I've asked what we changed and I felt it on the track. You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of put the puzzle pieces together a little bit better than just being in the dark. And then, my KYB guy back in the day, Brian, and it was Kyle Bentley. Like, it was a very, I didn't need, as long as I had somebody with their head on straight and knew what to do with the motorcycle, I didn't need like a coach and, a bunch of outside
entourage.
influences.
Yeah. How competent are you with like doing shit on the motorcycle? Because that was one thing Ricky brought up the other day. He's like, what did he say? Tighten a chain. He goes, how many of these boys out there right now could tighten a chain?
I don't know if I should even talk about this because I have never wrenched on a bike my entire life. Now,
Really?
I'm a very like, okay, I'm going to figure it out. Like I've tightened my chain before and stuff, but in general, because I started becoming pro so early, my dad wasn't going to make me wrench on the motorcycle while I'm like trying to race in the GP class and I'm 15 years old, you know what I mean? So I really never had to. It is sad. It really is sad, but at the same time, the bikes are so complex nowadays too, for the most part, you know what I mean? I mean, tightening a chain. Yeah, I understand. You know, for the most part, it's the same, but I don't fuck with it. I'm just going to sit on it and I'm going to, you know, hammer it down. You can fix it up.
I'll go fast. You fix the bike.
Yes.
Who could on the track? Like, who do you know guys that actually can?
Yeah, like Chiz, my teammate, like he can.
Oh, bro, he can do a bottom end.
But also, he's been around for 43 years. You know, he's been racing Supercross for 43 years.
Yeah.
JB back in the day for sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of the guys back in the day know how to do all that stuff. I think nowadays, maybe not so many. I don't know.
Wow,
I could be wrong.
That shows the sport's progression, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're just investing so much time on other areas that I don't. You know, when do I ever go to the track on my own to do that? Never.
Yeah. I love that you said how close you were with JB. I don't know that people know how rad that dude is.
Yep. Yeah, and we are in so many ways such polar opposites. Like I still have that, you know, little bit of spunk in me every now and then, and I just like I say as it is. I'm very blunt and whatnot, and he's a lot more not conservative, but like
reserved, calculated.
Yeah, but I think that's maybe why we get together, or that's why we gel together so long. And also, it's this whole family, you know, Paige, the wife, and I'm really close with the kids because back in the day, when we rented Salt Lake, we went on a bunch of trips for the short amount of time. How many years has it been now? 5-6 years or something like that. That we have actually like really been, you know, together and hanging out. We have gone on so many trips, just family, hanging out, vacation, also racing all over the world. Like I've spent so much time with him and the family that I really grew close to the kids and whatnot. And that was right before, you know, we got pregnant. And so you kind of got a feel for what it was like, you know? So there's just a lot more to it than just a guy that I see on the weekends, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's cool that he's getting a chance now to do like the race day live thing. And like he's really getting to have like that more involvement.
Has a very refreshed mind still on racing and setup and what it feels like to have a helmet on, you know?
Yeah. So rest of 2025, what can we expect from Ken Roczen, you reckon?
I'm going to try and stay as cool, as calm as I can, but I'm also very keen about bettering myself and working. One thing I do love is working with Larry Brooks. Like he's really been a savior, and yeah, I'm really in love with it in general. Like, you know what I mean? We gel so well together. So I just have so much fun. Everybody in the team right now, same with the suspension guys, we're all pulling on the same string. And that is so important to get better and get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
So I know that the other guys may be a level up from where I am, but I know I can get there. So I'm honestly very just excited to take it from race to race and be in the mix. And it's so tough right now. So I guess I want to figure it out. Like I want to see just how long I can go and make the best of whatever situation is given to me. So I'm really keen.
Dude, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
I'm stoked.
Sick that we got together finally, got it done.
Yeah.
After I don't know how many years we've been planning on this.
Yeah, it's been hey, it was worth the wait.
Yeah.
We made it happen. The ride was awesome. This was awesome. And yeah, seeing you get on the podium at A1 was rad. And I think that's just such a good sign for the season. So
yeah, I hope I don't know, maybe we can still do some cool things in this old age, you know?
Hey, you got it. You got it in you, bro.
Yeah.
You got it in you.
No,
well, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. See you next time.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.